Chapter 1901 Ghost Venom Abyss. Eerie. 4. Thus, in an instant, many mid-tier Imperial-level star beasts were left behind. Roar. Many high-tier Imperial-level star beasts were still hanging back, continuously chasing and emitting roars. Wang Teng, you better quickly deactivate whatever skill of yours. Its commotion is quite substantial, and those star beasts probably think they've stumbled upon some treasure. They are swarming towards you. Round Ball's voice echoed in Wang Ting's mind. Wang Ting paused for a moment, only then suddenly realizing that he had forgotten to shut off the source. These star beasts had clearly been attracted to him after he activated the Demon Lotus poison body. Damn, they were treating him like Tang Sanzang's meat. B0XO. Although this piece of meat was poisonous, it was undoubtedly the most delicious thing for these poison element star beasts. But there was also the possibility of being poisoned to death. After all, not all star beasts could eat the Demon Lotus poison body. Wang Teng couldn't help but complain in his heart. He didn't dwell on it any longer and immediately deactivated the Demon Lotus poison body. Immediately, the surrounding mist stopped rushing towards him. The delicious fragrance emanating from the Demon Lotus poison body also vanished without a trace. The star beasts chasing after him had a moment of confusion, as if they had seen a piece of fat meat disappear right before their eyes. This feeling of disappointment made them even more agitated. Roar. Howl. Rumbles of roars erupted from the mouths of these star beasts, and then they all stared at Wang Ting with cold gazes. Stare. What the heck? I've already disabled the Demon Lotus poison body. What more do they want from me? Wang Teng, seeing the reactions of these star beasts, was utterly speechless. He couldn't keep the Demon Lotus poison body active or deactivate it. Were they trying to make it impossible for him to survive? This is outrageous. Roar. These poison element star beasts didn't care about what Wang Teng was thinking. They were all at the mid-tier Imperial level or higher and had long possessed a level of intelligence beyond that of humans. Despite being influenced by the poison gas and prone to frenzy, they were not foolish. That delicious scent came from the human in front of them, and now it had disappeared, likely either concealed or absorbed by him. Whether it was on him and came from his body. They just needed to eat him. So, these star beasts had no intention of letting Wang Teng escape. They charged towards him even more ferociously, with no plans of letting him go. F***K. Wang Teng's expression changed. He shouted, "Run! These star beasts have gone mad." It looks like they have their eyes on you," Round Ball uttered with a strange expression. Wang Teng snorted, "Since it's useless, I might as well activate the Demon Lotus poison body directly. It'll absorb the mist while running. You will attract more star beasts," Round Ball cautioned hurriedly. "What's there to fear?" Wang Ting said with a light shout. Then he reactivated the Demon Lotus poison body, greedily absorbing the surrounding mist while fleeing. Roar. Howl. Roar. The star beasts behind them got even more excited. It appeared. It appeared again. That delicious scent was back. It had to be the human up ahead. Charred. Eat him. Meanwhile, more and more star beasts were drawn to the scene. Most of the star beasts living within the abyssal mist were poison element star beasts. Hence, they were unable to resist the temptation of the Demon Lotus poison body. If he only activated the Demon Lotus poison body, it wouldn't attract so many star beasts. However, with Wang Ting actively absorbing the mist, it created a significant commotion, drawing out the poison element star beasts living within the mist. In a way, Wang Ting had fallen into a nest of poison element star beasts, and he was a super delicious piece of meat, freshly cooked and enticing. Consequently, all the poison element star beasts were sure to rush over and fight for their share. Damn, there are so many. Wang Ting was greatly alarmed. Although he had been prepared to go all out, seeing so many poison element star beasts still made his scalp tingle. "Master, can I go back now?" Little White turned around and asked hurriedly. Its feathers were about to explode. Wang Ting glanced at Little White and said, "Little White, you weren't like this before." "Crows can change," Little White said calmly. "Wang Ting." Ha ha ha, Round Ball laughed uncontrollably, relishing the rare sight of Wang Ting made speechless. In the future, Don't hang out with the metal armor flaming scorpion. I might as well stew it. Wang Ting uttered menacingly. Little White shrunk its neck. Although it uttered that, it didn't slow down at all. Under Wang Ting's command, it continuously led the poison element star beasts behind them in circles. Wang Ting didn't stand still either. His eyes emitted golden light, and his spiritual power surged out like dozens of invisible tentacles, controlling dozens of flying daggers in the air, reaping the lives of mid-tier Imperial-level star beasts. When he broke through to the cosmos realm, he had gathered an excessive amount of spiritual power, so his spiritual power was extremely pure and abundant. After the breakthrough, his spiritual power was undoubtedly formidable among beginner-stage cosmos-stage martial warriors. Coupled with his ability to multitask, killing mid-tier Imperial-level star beasts wasn't too difficult. A large number of attribute bubbles appeared and were picked up one by Wang Ting. His poison constellation force rose exponentially. It went from the first level of the cosmos stage to the second level. Then, it went to the third level and the fourth level. The rate of improvement finally slowed down. Poison constellation force, fourth level cosmos stage. In less than half a day, Wang Ting's poison constellation force rose by 3 levels and reached the fourth level of the cosmos stage. Chapter 1902 Ghost Venom Abyss. Eerie. 5. Such progress was undeniably terrifying. However, this was also related to the fact that he had attracted so many poison element star beasts. Without these star beasts, he wouldn't have been able to collect so many attribute bubbles in less than half a day, and he certainly wouldn't have been able to advance 3 levels all at once. Mind you, he was at the cosmos stage now. The best way to improve his strength was to profit from fellow martial warriors or star beasts of the same stage. However, the higher the tier of existence, the fewer there were, and as Wang Ting grew stronger, the process of enhancing his strength would become relatively more challenging. But his current rate of improvement was anything but slow. One could only say that Wang Ting was crazy enough. Other people wouldn't dare to attract so many poison element star beasts. It was like seeking death. A smile appeared at the edge of Wang Ting's lips when he saw the attributes board. B0XO. Poison Constellation Force, 1320040,000, Cosmos Stage 4th level, there was a reward for the effort. He didn't get chased by so many poison element star beasts in vain. Roar. A ghostly green beam of light shot from behind, dissipating the mist in its path, and the air emitted a sizzling sound as a strong, foul odor swept in. Little White immediately dodged to the side and swung a bloodsickle slash toward the poison element star beast behind viciously. The bloodsickle slash was incredibly fast, carrying a strong aura of blood as it slashed through, crashing fiercely into the poison element star beast. Croak. The poison element star beast gave a terrifying roar. However, the bloodsickle slash didn't cause it too much harm, leaving only a blooded gash on its body. Instead, it infuriated the star beast, causing it to chase after them furiously. This poison element star beast resembled a massive toad, covered with many warts and pustules on its back, looking extremely grotesque and terrifying. It was exceptionally enraged at this moment. Some of the pustules on its back suddenly burst, turning into a green mist that swiftly surged towards Wang Ting and Little White. Wang Ting felt the intense toxicity within it, and his expression changed slightly. He quickly channeled the constellation Wang Ting within his body and thrust his palm forward. Universe Stage Battle Technique Raging Gale Palm. Boom. This palm contained all the constellation wind force in Wang Ting's body. At the same time, he compressed his 4th rank wind demonic domain and released it instantly. His constellation wind force was only at the 4th level cosmos stage while his opponent was a high-tier Imperial level star beast. Thus, he had to go all out. The raging gale palm transformed into a powerful palm imprint, with winds trailing behind it, carrying an endless force of wind and death as it struck the green mist, causing a violent eruption of his domain power. Bang! A very dull sound echoed, and the green mist was blocked in midair. However, the raging gale palm's imprint beneath the green mist was continuously corroded, emitting a sizzling sound, and it was on the verge of disintegrating in an instant. Run! Wang Ting shouted, urging Little White to flee. Little White knew it wasn't a match, and quickly flapped its wings, flying forward. Boom! At this moment, the imprint of the raging gale palm finally couldn't hold on any longer and burst apart instantly. The green mist seemed to have grown eyes and chased after Wang Teng and Little White in their escape direction. Meanwhile, the giant toad-like creature from behind continued to pursue. However, after a short while, the number of star beasts around them decreased, and the giant toad seemed to hesitate. A trace of human-like hesitation appeared in its massive beastly pupils. What's going on? Wang Teng noticed this situation and couldn't help but feel puzzled. He sensed his surroundings and suddenly realized that the mist here had unexplainably become denser. Unbeknownst to them, they had already ventured deep into the mist. The colorful mist appeared even more vibrant, as if it contained an unparalleled deadly poison. "Master, I can't hold on much longer," Little White's voice suddenly rang out, and its surface flickered with blood-red light as if it were struggling to resist the external mist. "Are you okay?" Wang Teng was alarmed and quickly asked. "For now, I'm fine. But the mist around here is terrifying, and I'm afraid I can't stay outside any longer," Little White replied. "You should go back first." Wang Ting immediately recalled it into the space fragment. "Wang Ting, it seems like the mist here is quite terrifying. Look, even those star beasts from behind are hesitant to pursue," Roundball remarked. "Yeah." Wang Ting silently nodded, already aware of the situation. Croak. The giant toad emitted a deep, peculiar roar, sounding highly wary. Its gaze remained fixed on Wang Teng, but it was uncertain to approach. Could there be some frightening danger ahead? Wang Teng wondered, looking into the depths of the mist. "What should we do? Should we change direction?" Roundball asked. "No hurry." Wang Teng thought of something. A faint smirk appeared on his lips. There was a clear border within this mist. Outside the boundary, the mist was somewhat thinner, but inside the boundary, it was exceptionally dense, creating a distinct contrast. The toad-like star beast now remained several thousand yards outside the boundary, unwilling to get any closer. While keeping an eye on the depths of the mist warily, Wang Ting walked to the edge of the boundary, and, with a playful grin, he beckoned to the toad-like star beast with a curl of his finger. Croak. The giant toad's eyes flashed with anger as it glared at Wang Teng, and with a sudden lunge, it was about to pounce on him. However, Wang Ting immediately retreated and returned to the back of the boundary. The giant toad's massive body froze in place, unable to move forward or backward. "Come on over." Wang Ting stepped out of the border once again, beckoning to the giant toad with a mischievous grin on his face. The giant toad, "This human is infuriating." It seethed with anger, ready to pounce, its gaze locked onto Wang Teng. Wang Teng would step out, then retreat, step out again, and then retreat once more, repeating this unpredictable pattern several times, leaving the toad-like star beast utterly frustrated and on the verge of spitting blood. It hesitated for a long time, seemingly very wary. But eventually, driven to the extreme by Wang Teng's taunts, it roared in anger and charged directly at him. Boom! Its massive body lunged into the colorful mist with a thunderous crash. "Oh my God! Run!" Wang Ting yelled in surprise, quickly darting deeper into the mist. Once the giant toad crossed the boundary, it seemed to cast aside all hesitation and chased Wang Teng relentlessly. Swoosh! A long, jade-green tongue shot out from its mouth, curling towards Wang Teng at lightning speed like a streak of electricity. Wang Teng broke into a cold sweat and immediately used his light bolt, transforming into a white light and escaping through the mist, evading the elongated tongue. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a dense series of sonic booms echoed from the mist, and countless dark shadows rushed up from below. Croak. The giant toad let out a terrified roar and tried to turn and escape, but it was too late. Its massive body was entangled by countless dark shadows and was immediately pulled beneath the mist, disappearing from sight. Only the sound of its frightened cries continued to echo. Chapter 1903 Demon Lotus Poison Body. Transformation. 1. F***K. Being an uneducated person, all Wang Ting could say now was F***K. When Wang Ting saw the giant toad being dragged beneath the mist, screaming in helplessness, an inexplicable chill ran down his spine, and he was overwhelmed with horror. What the hell was that? Even a high-tier Imperial-level star beast couldn't resist it and was pulled down instantly. In the mist, he couldn't even see clearly what it was. Swoosh. Once again, there was a breaking sound in the air as if tearing through space, and it appeared beneath Wang Ting's feet in an instant. B0XO. He was taken aback and his complexion changed slightly. Then, he immediately transformed into light to escape. The speed of the light bolt was comparable to the speed of light. It was extremely fast. However, what Wang Ting didn't expect was that the dark shadows behind him continued to pursue relentlessly without falling behind at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several more breaking sounds came from all directions, and countless dark shadows approached from every side, almost sealing off this area. Wang Teng's expression changed rapidly, his scalp tingling. He didn't dare to delay any longer and directly used Space Flash to enter the space. But another unexpected situation occurred. He found that the space around him had become sluggish. Those dark shadows had even blocked the space itself. Damn it! Wang Ting gritted his teeth and a battle sword appeared in his hand. He activated his space physique and the power of space congregated on the battle sword. The Godslayer sword scripture. Slaying God. The additional effect of the space domain, even though Wang Teng's space domain was only at the first level, was better than nothing. A silver-white sword light instantly slashed out and the power of the first-level space domain erupted. It collided with those dark shadows ahead. Boom! Explosions erupted from within the space, and cracking sounds echoed around. Space was torn apart, leaving behind deep, dark rifts. Finally, a gap appeared in the sealed space. Without hesitation, Wang Ting immediately moved and rushed out toward the boundary line. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The pursuing shadows followed closely, emitting piercing sounds in the air. Wang Ting kept using his space flash. Gradually, the distance between them widened. After a while, he finally broke through the boundary line. However, he didn't stop there. He kept moving forward rapidly until he had covered thousands of meters. Only then, with no more sounds from the rupturing space behind him, did he slowly come to a stop. Phew! Wang Ting looked back, exhaling a long breath with a lingering sense of danger. That was close. What was that thing? Round Ball's voice echoed in Wang Ting's mind. It hadn't dared to speak a moment ago, fearing it might disturb Wang Ting. I don't know, didn't see clearly, Wang Ting shook his head. But it's terrifying. Even a high-tier Imperial-level star beast was dragged down. If my escape techniques weren't advanced enough, I would have been done for. You're such a daredevil. Round Ball couldn't help but complain. I lured that toad star beast in there to draw out the danger inside, and it seems like my plan worked, Wang Ting confidently stated. You sure are something. Round Ball grumbled. This guy was truly insane. In that situation just now, he was only a hair's breadth away from death. It could only be said that he was highly skilled, and Wang Ting had enough tricks up his sleeve, which gave him some confidence. Wang Ting disregarded Round Ball's complaints and looked at the attributes board. His adventure had not been without rewards. First, he had revealed some of the dangers in that area. Second, he had gained some attribute bubbles. Among them were the attribute bubbles that had burst out when the giant toad star beast died. Poison Constellation Force * 8500 Jade Essence Toad Poison Mist * 1200 Blank Attribute * 23000 Jade Essence Toad. It's pitch black, and it has the nerve to be called a Jade Essence Toad. Wang Ting complained in his heart. However, when the Jade Essence Toad Poison Mist attribute bubbles merged into his mind, his eyes lit up. The Jade Essence Toad Poison Mist was more powerful than the mid-tier Imperial-level star beast's poison. This poison could corrode the bodies of heaven-stage presences and even erode spiritual power, making it extremely overbearing and terrifying. There were also more Constellation Poison Force and Blank attributes than the mid-tier Imperial-level star beasts. Apart from these, there were also several attribute bubbles from the Black Shadows which had dragged the Jade Essence Toad into the mist. Wang Ting's attack wasn't useless. It looked like he injured his opponent. If not, he wouldn't have dropped attribute bubbles. Wang Teng was curious and immediately checked what these attribute bubbles contained. Poison Constellation Force * 4000 Ghost Venom Vine * 1000 blank Attribute * 9300 Ghost Venom Vine. Wang Teng's gaze turned strange. The relevant introduction appeared in his mind. The Ghost Venom Vine might be described as a special ability that allowed the user to condense the constellation poison force into vine-like structures, attaching potent toxins and possessing strong offensive capabilities. Wang Teng suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. That's right, Devil Vine. Wang Teng's gaze scanned the attributes board and settled on another skill he possessed. Devil Vine. Ghost Venom Vine. The two were remarkably similar. However, one became a skill acquired from dark creatures, while the other was obtained from poison element creatures, so there must be some differences. If Wang Teng used the Ghost Venom Vine, others would likely assume he became a poison element martial artist. However, if he used the Devil Vine, this would expose the fact which he had the Constellation Dark Force. Chapter 1904 Demon Lotus Poison Body. Transformation. 2. At this moment, Wang Teng extended both hands, each emitting a distinct type of force that transformed into tendrils resembling poisonous snakes. The tendrils stretched from his palms, swaying in mid-air like serpents. Yet they were very friendly towards Wang Teng, coiling around his arms without causing any harm. These two types of tendrils were distinctly different. One appeared entirely black, which was the Devil Vine formed from dark force. The other was a dark green shade, unmistakably the Ghost Venom Vine, created from the Constellation Poison Force. Wang Teng had a sudden thought. The Ghost Venom Vine on his right hand shot out immediately and cut through the mist in front. Its speed was so fast that it created sharp sonic booms as it sliced through the air. And its appearance was nearly identical to those dark shapes he came across earlier. These Ghost Venom Vines were dark green, but if they were fast enough, they would be easily seen as black. So that thing is the Ghost Venom Vine? Wang Teng speculated. These two skills were indeed very similar, with slightly different effects. What's this? Round Ball's surprised voice was heard. It stared at the tendrils in Wang Teng's hand, especially the one he had just shot out, which was nearly identical to the previous dark shapes. It wasn't stupid, so it had some guesses. Even though it had been with Wang Teng for a long time and knew what was happening, it couldn't help but be surprised every time it witnessed such a scene. Make a guess. Wang Teng grinned, sticking to his usual approach of evading answers. Guess your head. Round Ball responded with irritation, rolling its eyes. It changed the subject and asked, so, the thing beneath the mist is these tendrils? Perhaps, Wang Teng replied casually. I never expected it to be these things, Round Ball said. It looked at the tendrils in Wang Teng's hand and continued, by the way, why are these two tendrils different? One of them seems to contain dark force. Wang Teng dispersed the tendrils without explaining anything, leaving Round Ball quite frustrated. It was very curious. At this moment, it was itching with curiosity, but it knew that Wang Teng would never voluntarily explain anything. At this moment, Wang Teng suddenly noticed the words mergeable behind the Devil Vine and Ghost Venom Vine skills. Interesting. Wang Teng's thoughts raced, and without much hesitation, he chose to fuse them. Devil Vine plus Ghost Venom Vine equals Devil Ghost Venom Vine. Wang Teng looked at the new skill that appeared on the attributes board and fell into silence. Good lord. That was hasty. Combining them gave him the Devil Ghost Venom Vine. It didn't even bother to think of a more sophisticated name. But, there was nothing wrong with that. Devil. Poison. These three words succinctly explain the characteristics of this vine, making its function crystal clear. The last word vine proved that the Devil Ghost Venom Vine was a vine. It was a unique plant-like life form. It was clear, straightforward, and easy to understand. Full marks for reading comprehension. After the fusion, the resulting Devil Ghost Venom Vine possessed the characteristics of both, combining the toughness and dark attributes of Devil Vine with the intense toxicity of Ghost Venom Vine, making it even more powerful. Furthermore, this was a growth-type skill. As long as Wang Teng's strength and original power were strong enough, its power would continue to increase. In addition to these attributes, The ghost venom vine also dropped many constellation poison force and blank attributes. This surprised Wang Teng, and he furrowed his brow slightly. If he recalled correctly, he had only severed a few vines just now, and yet, so many attribute values were obtained. This made him wonder just how powerful the actual body of the ghost venom vine was. He couldn't imagine it. Based on his prediction, the ghost venom vine was at least at the Titan level, which was equivalent to an Eternal Stage martial warrior, and possibly even one of the strongest within the Eternal Stage. Furthermore, given that the abyss was named after the words ghost and venom, there might be a link to the ghost venom vine. If it was, it would be troublesome. Wang Ting hesitated for a moment, his gaze flickering. He wondered if he should go down and investigate. With the ghost venom vine, he could cover himself in vine armor, which might help him go incognito and avoid being detected. He had used this tactic many times before, and it had demonstrated effective. However, if he were discovered, he would need to be prepared to escape. The entity down there was no ordinary presence. He glanced at his demon lotus poison body attribute again. After the absorption just now, the attributes of the demon lotus poison body improved significantly. Wang Ting felt that his demon lotus poison body had become much stronger. Demon lotus poison body, 5610,000. It exceeded 5,000 point. Wang Ting was surprised when he saw the attributes board. The demon lotus poison body was no ordinary attribute. It changed the constellation power force within it, making it incredibly powerful and imbued with the utmost poison of the demon lotus. Even the jade essence toad poison mist he had just obtained couldn't compare. As the demon lotus poison body improved, the lotus poison would become more and more terrifying. Judging by his current level of mastery over the demon lotus poison body, this poison might even render Heaven Stage martial warriors powerless. Wang Teng gritted his teeth. A resolute glow appeared in his eyes. Chapter 1905 Demon Lotus Poison Body. Transformation. 3. Seeking wealth in risk. It might be dangerous below, but there were tremendous benefits too. On this Scorpion King planet, the only aspects of his strength that could be improved were various abilities related to poison. Now, an opportunity was right in front of him, and he couldn't afford to give it up. He didn't dare to provoke the ghost venom vine, but drawing some mist to enhance his demon lotus poison body shouldn't be too excessive. Moreover, if necessary, he still had the trump card of the divine flames. Plant-based life forms should be vulnerable to the divine flames' effects. He didn't need to defeat or kill his opponent. He just needed to create an opportunity to escape. In an instant, the constellation poison force in Wang Teng's body surged out, condensing into vines that wrapped around his body. His entire body was covered, leaving only his eyes to observe the outside world. His poison constellation force had reached the 4th level of the Cosmos stage and was quickly approaching the 5th level. In terms of force, he was not lacking, so the outpouring of force was sufficient to create a complete set of vine armor. As the vine armor completely covered Wang Ting's body, he used his advanced stage disguise talent to conceal his aura completely. He even referred to Treant Borit's appearance and transformed himself to look like a Treant, fully becoming one with the vines. The vine armor man had arrived. At this moment, even if someone close to him was standing in front of him, they would probably mistake him for a plant life form rather than a human warrior. This works too. Round Ball widened its eyes, utterly shocked. It hadn't paid attention for just a moment, and Wang Ting had completely transformed, almost unrecognizable. Wang Ting smiled with satisfaction. Once again, he entered the boundary line, heading straight into the mist. He slowly descended, feeling the concentration of mist around him continuously increasing. The extreme poison within it even made him feel a little nervous. He activated World Devourer and absorbed all the poisonous substances around him. He didn't know what this mist contained exactly, but it could enhance his demon lotus poison body. This meant that it wasn't just ordinary poison. Maybe this highly poisonous mist contains some special substance that affects poison physiques. Of course, these are all his speculations, and the actual situation remains uncertain. Wang Ting was now approaching the center of the abyss. The concentration here was already much higher than at the edges, and now, descending further, It was likely several times higher than at the edges, possibly even 4 times as concentrated. Let's stop here. He blinked and he gradually stopped. The ghost venom vine hadn't appeared, so he was temporarily safe. He could use this opportunity to enhance his demon lotus poison body. Wang Teng sat cross-legged where he was, suspended in the mist. He allowed the world devourer to slowly absorb the surrounding mist. He didn't dare to absorb the mist too quickly to avoid unnecessary trouble. What if the ghost venom vine was also interested in the demon lotus poison body? He had noticed that the faster world devourer operated, the faster it absorbed the mist. Once the absorption speed reached a certain point, the concentration of mist inside him would become terrifyingly high, compressing within his body. The demon lotus poison body would release this unique state. This was a huge temptation for the poison element star beasts. They would undoubtedly charge towards him without hesitation. However, he had also executed his advanced stage disguise talent. With the help of the vine armor, his aura was concealed and it was hard to detect him. Wang Ting immersed himself in sensing the changes in his demon lotus poison body. Suddenly, he felt a strange sensation, as if a highly unique substance was being absorbed and transformed by the world devourer skill. It entered his body and caused a change in his demon lotus poison body. What could this be? Wang Teng was puzzled. Gradually, the black lotus on his forehead began to emit a radiant light, appearing extremely eerie. At the same time, his arms started to display fine black lines. These lines resembled patterns but seemed different, extremely peculiar, and unique. As these lines appeared, Wang Ting felt an increasing affinity with the constellation poison force in the world. Even the power of poison origin seemed to become more attuned to him. What is this? Wang Ting suddenly opened his eyes. They were filled with astonishment. Even though he was covered in the vine armor, he clearly sensed this change, which both surprised and thrilled him. This was the first time such a situation had occurred, and Wang Ting was naturally astonished. However, he was also thrilled because it seemed that this change brought him significant benefits. In awakening the demon lotus poison body, Wang Ting thought of something and was flabbergasted. He found that at this moment, he seemed to be truly mastering the demon lotus poison body. In the past, he had only used this body for poison element cultivation. You could say that this was the most basic way of using the demon lotus poison body. Now, a glimmer of understanding had emerged in his heart. The devil lotus venomous body wasn't just about accelerating his force cultivation. It also allowed him to better resonate with the origin of poison. This would help him understand the origin of venom and even serve as a powerful means of attack. This body was very strong. It was in no way comparable to ordinary poison element physiques. Chapter 1906 Demon Lotus Poison Body. Transformation. 4. From nothing to something, it's considered my first awakening. I can use the Demon Lotus Poison Body now. Now, it should be my second awakening, enabling me to better resonate with the power of origin, and at the same time, the power of the Demon Lotus Poison Body has greatly increased. Wang Ting speculated. He could sense the strengthening of his physique. The constellation poison force within him seemed to have transformed too. The deadly poison within the force became even more terrifying. It's amazing. Truly incredible. Wang Ting marveled, completely taken aback by the surprising gains. The unique substance in the mist had brought about such a profound transformation in his demon lotus poison body, which was beyond his wildest imagination. But, it's not enough. Wang Ting abruptly stood up. He felt that the mist in this area could no longer bring about significant changes. He had to go deeper. Currently, only his arms had developed the black patterns, while other regions of his body hadn't. According to Wang Teng's expectations, he needed those black patterns to appear on all regions of his body to achieve a complete second awakening. He immediately looked below the mist, without any hesitation, and his speed skyrocketed like an arrow, breaking through the mist and descending rapidly. After descending thousands of meters, Wang Teng once again felt a notable change in the mist's density. If it was 4 times denser earlier, it was now 5 times. Wang Teng came to a halt again and began to activate the World Devourer technique to absorb the mist, allowing the demon lotus poison body to progress even further. The black patterns on his arms multiplied, spreading from his elbows to his wrists and soon covering his entire arms. If he were to remove the covering of the vine armor, a magnificent black floral pattern would be unveiled on his arm. Not enough. Not enough. Half an hour later, Wang Ting opened his eyes again and charged straight down below. Having tasted success, he couldn't possibly give up now. If the demon lotus poison body could complete this awakening, the benefits to him would undoubtedly be immense. What surprised Wang Ting was the unbelievable depth of this abyss. He had lowered at least 30,000 feet, and yet, he had not reached the bottom. After flying for about 12,000 feet this time, he felt the mist growing denser once more, reaching approximately 6 times its previous density. He stopped and began to absorb it once again. Time passed, and unknowingly, another 3 hours had gone by. The black patterns on Wang Ting's body multiplied further, and his other arm was now covered in black patterns as well. They were even spreading towards his chest, gradually forming a pattern on his chest. However, this pattern was only halfway completed when it abruptly stopped. It looked like a black lotus flower, very similar to the lotus pattern on Wang Teng's forehead but much larger, almost covering his entire chest. Wang Teng did not see this pattern but felt something unusual on his chest. He also sensed the abrupt halt and the discomfort that came with it. Is it still not enough? He murmured to himself, looking at the attributes board where the values were approaching their limits. Demon Lotus Poison Body, 8750 10,000 inch. It seems like him approaching the limit, and further improvements have become even more difficult, Wang Ting muttered, his eyes flickering as he hesitated. He felt that he had ventured too deep, and with each descent, the danger increased. He couldn't afford to be careless. However, since he had come this far, there was no reason to give up now. He could only grit his teeth and continue flying down. But this time, his speed noticeably slowed, and he remained vigilant about his surroundings, fearing that the ghost venom vine might suddenly emerge from below. Speaking of which, the ghost venom vine was incredibly long. This abyss seemed to have no end, yet it had managed to pull the jade essence toad down earlier. This was unbelievable. Whether it was due to Wang Ting's disguise or not, he had lowered 60,000 feet and still hadn't seen a trace of the ghost venom vine. At this point, the mist's density had reached 7 times its initial level, and visibility had reduced to almost nothing. The colorful mist enveloped everything, instantly corroding ordinary force to nothingness. Fortunately, Wang Teng possessed the demon lotus poison body, allowing him to withstand this toxic mist. If it were an ordinary poison physique, facing such a frightening mist would likely result in certain doom. However, the demon lotus poison body was extraordinarily unique and powerful. It could absorb the special substances within the mist to enhance itself and had developed a resistance to the toxic mist. Wang Teng's gradual descent was a wise approach. During this process, the demon lotus poison body continued to grow stronger. If he had suddenly reached this depth without the gradual progression, relying solely on the initial power of the demon lotus poison body, he would have been unable to withstand the 7-fold concentrated mist. Upon entering the region with 7 times the mist's concentration, the black patterns on Wang Ting's body were once again stimulated, spreading further. As the world devourer absorbed more and more mist, these black patterns seemed to be nourished. The black lotus on Wang Ting's chest began to bloom, radiating an eerie and peculiar aura. Wang Ting's demon lotus poison body attribute rose exponentially too. It went from 8,750 to 9,000 points. Then, it kept rising, 9,200 point, 9,300 points, 9,500 points, 9,800 point, 10,000. Finally, at a certain moment, the demon lotus poison body attribute reached the perfected stage of 10,000 points. The black lotus on Wang Ting's chest was finally fully outlined, silently blooming at his chest. It appeared vivid and eerie, emanating an otherworldly sensation. Chapter 1907 Demon Lotus Poison Body. Transformation. 5. He felt a burning sensation in his chest. An indescribable feeling spread throughout his body. Suddenly, Wang Ting had a strong desire to dissipate the vines covering his chest to examine the changes in his body. However, when he opened his eyes and saw the perilous surroundings, he immediately dismissed the thought. This place was too dangerous. He couldn't remove his vine armor. This is the limit, but I feel like I still need more of that special substance. The demon lotus poison body can still break through, Wang Ting muttered, his eyes gleaming with contemplation. He had a strong premonition that the demon lotus poison body could surpass its limits and reach another realm. The black designs on his body had only reached his chest, and there was still a long way to go for them to spread to other parts of his body. Wang Ting, we can't go any further. It's too dangerous. I have a feeling that something terrifying is down there, Round Ball suddenly spoke with a grave tone. Wang Ting's expression turned serious. He didn't believe Round Ball was exaggerating because he had been feeling the same way all along. However, he had a compelling reason to continue downward. With determination, Wang Ting proceeded straight downward. 65,000 feet. 70,000 feet. 75,000 feet. 80,000 feet. After some time, he broke through the 80,000-foot mark and reached 85,000 feet in depth. The density of the fog barely reached 8 times the initial concentration. As he advanced, he noticed that the higher the concentration, the farther he had to travel to reach it. Boom! Wang Ting's pupils contracted, and his heart trembled as he saw a colossal vortex ahead within the mist. It was almost 10,000 feet in diameter, and even though it was quite far away, he could see it at a glance. This vortex, like the surrounding mist, displayed a riot of colors and was extraordinarily vibrant. Yet, it concealed a terrifying and unsettling feeling. It was slowly rotating, seemingly quiet. If one didn't look closely, it appeared almost stationary. At this moment, Wang Ting was still tens of thousands of feet away from the vortex, but he could already sense the density of the mist on that side, which was surpassing all the areas within the abyss. Wang Ting maintained a serious countenance and dared not approach even slightly. He sat down cross-legged on the ground and absorbed the mist around him. The demon lotus poison body attribute rose again. However, what surprised Wang Ting was the magnitude of this upgrade. This enhancement of the demon lotus poison body caused a huge disturbance. In an instant, the mist around him started to twist violently. The World Devourer wasn't activated. Instead, the demon lotus poison body began to operate on its own, and at a terrifying speed. The fog in the surroundings started to swirl and rush frantically toward Wang Ting. Within his body, the black designs began spreading from his chest to his back and lower limbs at a frightening speed. The petals of a flower bloomed and intertwined like hidden designs of the world. A black lotus flower appeared on his back, echoing the one on his chest. Simultaneously, the black lotus on his chest seemed to extend roots, first spreading across his abdomen, then branching out downwards and to the sides, crawling towards his thighs. All the way down, until the black designs covered his entire body, crawling over an indescribable part of his body to reach his thighs. Wang Teng's entire body was enveloped in these black patterns, and a strange power emanated from him. Boom! In an instant, something within Wang Teng's body exploded, accompanied by a loud eruption. A blazing black light erupted from his body, and the surrounding mist swirled even more violently. The black light condensed, and a massive black lotus flower suddenly emerged beneath Wang Teng, lifting him. Chapter 1908 Abyssal Hell Devil Lotus. Snake Race. 1. In the vortex, countless shadows suddenly shot out. The colorful fog was punctured with gaps as if it had been pierced by countless arrows. Even though they were tens of thousands of feet away, the shadows approached rapidly in a very short amount of time. Wang Ting opened his eyes wide, and a pitch-black light flashed through. His vine armor suddenly dispersed, and he shouted, "Go!" In an instant, the black lotus flower formed by countless black lights burst out from under him, rushing towards the countless dark shadows ahead. The black lotus flower spun in the fog, and an endless black light erupted, brilliant and eerie. Without any hesitation, Wang Ting quickly retreated, seizing the opportunity to leave this place. This was too dangerous. He didn't expect the demon lotus poison body to create this trouble at the end, leaving him in a very passive position. He needed to leave immediately. Boom. The next moment, the black lotus flower collided with the countless black lights, erupting a terrifying surge of force power that swept toward the surroundings. The dense mist was instantly dispersed, and even the mist near the vortex was blown away slightly, revealing what lay beneath the mist. Wang Ting looked over as he retreated. His pupils constricted. Inside the foggy vortex, there was a massive creature resembling a giant, strange tree, covered in vines. It was unclear, but it was covered in vines. The black shadows were the veins on the strange tree. Ghost venom vine. This was the true form of the ghost venom vine. Although Wang Ting had never seen the ghost venom vine, he was certain that the gigantic, strange tree before him was undoubtedly the true form of the ghost venom vine. He couldn't help but activate his real eye to take a look. However, the next moment, he closed his eyes uncontrollably. The light was too dazzling, making it impossible to see. The ghost venom vine was incredibly strong, absolutely terrifying. Without hesitation, Wang Ting immediately sped up to his maximum speed, turning into a streak of light as he fled into the distance. The explosion in front of him had yet to cease, and the black lotus flower transformed into endless black light, containing the poison of the transformed devil lotus. Surprisingly, the ghost venom vine showed some restraint, and a dark green liquid emitted from its dark green vines. Sizzle, as the two deadly toxins came into contact, they emitted a hissing sound and formed a green mist that blended into the surrounding fog. The poison of the demon lotus poison body was indeed terrifying. It was able to resist the ghost venom vine's deadly poison. If Wang Ting's strength wasn't so vastly inferior to that of the ghost venom vine, he might have been able to confront it head-on with the power of the demon lotus poison body. However, now he could only focus on escaping. The ghost venom vine didn't want to let Wang Ting go so easily. Countless black vines shot out from its main body once again, blocking Wang Ting from all directions. The true size of the ghost venom vine's main body was unknown. In just a moment, Wang Ting had already fled thousands of meters. Yet, the vines shot directly from within the surrounding fog, sealing off his escape route effectively. Furthermore, that sense of space stagnation reappeared. His speed became sluggish. Wang Teng's expression changed slightly. A universe-level battle sword emerged in his hand and he activated his space physique. The Godslayer sword scripture. Slaying God. First-rank space domain exploded and a silver-white sword glow slashed out. Splat. Countless vines were cut and snapped. The ghost venom vine's vines were exceptionally tough and impervious to ordinary battle techniques. But Wang Teng used a space battle technique and added the power of domain to it. Even universe-stage martial warriors wouldn't dare to confront this space-slicing force. Though this ghost venom vine was a Titan-level entity, it was not its main body, and these vines could only be considered as its appendage. After the black vines were severed, numerous dark green toxins spewed out, filling the air with a pungent odor. Wang Teng's expression changed. He triggered the wind force in his body and pushed his palm out. Raging gale palm. Boom. A gigantic cyan palm imprint clashed with the toxic liquid in front. Hiss, hiss, hiss. There was another hissing sound as the toxic liquid came into contact with the raging gale palm, immediately eroding it. However, the raging gale palm was a universe-stage battle technique. Its force was extremely condensed and it had the 4th-rank wind demonic domain added to it. It wouldn't corrode so easily. The raging winds swept through, and under the impact of the raging gale palm, the toxic liquid spread entirely. Seizing the opportunity, Wang Teng broke through. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. However, the ghost venom vine relentlessly closed in, and its vines seemed endless, surrounding the area entirely. Wang Teng finally realized the terror of the ghost venom vine. This area had almost become its domain, with vines everywhere. Escaping now was incredibly difficult. He was too close, unlike before when he was at the top of the mist, where he could escape easily. At this moment, he was in the central area of the ghost venom vine's domain, and he could even see its main body. A close encounter was imminent. Damn this demon lotus poison body. Couldn't you quietly improve yourself? Did it have to be so noisy? Don't you know what Loki means? Wang Ting cursed silently even though the demon lotus poison body couldn't understand him. I can only give it a try. With determination, he clenched his teeth and unleashed the divine flames in his body. Boom! Endless green flames swept out, spreading towards the ghost venom vines, moving at an incredible speed. Chapter 1909 Abyssal Hell Devil Lotus. Snake Race. 2. Squeak. A piercing, sharp sound emanated from the ghost venom vine's main body within the vortex. It seemed extremely wary of the heavenly fire. As soon as the black vines touched the divine flame, they began to burn fiercely. When the divine flame encountered the black vines, it was as if it had found fuel, and it burned even more vigorously. No matter how resilient a plant body might be, it had no resistance against the divine flame. The emerald-glazed flame quickly spread along the vines towards the main body of the ghost venom vine, creating lines of fire that were highly visible within the mist. The colorful mist around them, upon contact with the emerald-glazed flame, also seemed to have found its nemesis and dispersed in all directions. Squeak. The ghost venom vine emitted piercing, angry shrieks, appearing both furious and wary. Countless vines wildly thrashed in the mist, and those touched by the emerald-glazed flame were all swiftly severed by the vine itself. It displayed remarkable decisiveness. Wang Ting took the chance and released the space power in his body. He activated the space flash and the light bolt skills. His speed was pushed to the maximum as he escaped into the distance. The green flames enveloped him completely, leaving a brilliant trail of fire in the mist as he moved. Boom! In an instant, Wang Ting burst out of the mist, ascending above the ghost venom abyss. However, he didn't stop there and continued to charge toward the edge of the abyss. He crossed the entire ghost venom abyss and returned from the central area to the outer edge. He landed on a massive stone near the abyss rim. Sigh. Only then did Wang Ting stop and turn back to look into the mist. When he saw that the ghost venom vine hadn't pursued him, he let out a long sigh of relief. That was close. Too close. He patted his chest, still sensing the lingering fear. This time, the close encounter with the ghost venom vine's core was indeed much more perilous than the previous one. If it weren't for Wang Ting's divine flame, which happened to be effective against plant-based entities, causing the adversary to be somewhat wary, it would have been extremely difficult to escape. You know how to make things thrilling each time, don't you? Round Ball emerged beside him, looking at Wang Ting speechlessly. I didn't plan for it. Wang Ting replied in exasperation. You brought this upon yourself. Round Ball sniggered. Wang Ting, he felt unfairly accused, considering that it was the demon lotus poison body that acted on its own. What did he have to do with it? But Round Ball wouldn't believe him. By the way, what exactly happened just now? Why did your body suddenly emit black light that condense into a black lotus flower? Round Ball asked with curiosity. The demon lotus poison body has transformed. Wang Ting explained and immediately looked at the attributes board. He was so focused on escaping that he didn't have the time to check the changes to the demon lotus poison body. Demon lotus poison body, 150,000, abyssal hell devil lotus, abyssal hell devil lotus. Wang Ting frowned. What is this? A state? A mode? He closed his eyes to sense it. As the demon lotus poison body completed its transformation, Wang Ting's mastery of this physique had greatly improved. At this moment, he finally understood the meaning behind the abyssal hell devil lotus state. As he had suspected, the abyssal hell devil lotus was indeed a mode that the demon lotus poison body entered after its transformation. In this mode, the demon lotus poison body became more attuned to the constellation poison force, and at the same time, made it more conducive to comprehending the power of the origin of poison. When the abyssal hell devil lotus mode was activated, Wang Ting's speed in comprehending the power of the origin of poison would be 10 times faster than in its dormant state. This was an extremely significant difference. A tenfold increase in velocity that was practically unparalleled. Normal talents couldn't do it. Even with Wang Ting's usual reliance on picking attributes to enhance his power of origin, it was challenging to refuse such a transformation. As his strength grew, attributes like the power of origin became increasingly difficult to obtain. Therefore, most of the time, he had to rely on himself to comprehend it. Now that he had this abyssal hell devil lotus mode, Wang Ting found it much easier to comprehend the power of the origin of poison. Additionally, to his surprise, this abyssal hell devil lotus mode was also an attack method, much like the black lotus flower he had condensed earlier. This black lotus flower condensed all the poison energy, and if used as an attack against an opponent, it would explode, turning into a terrifying poison power that forcefully invaded the opponent's body, causing them to be poisoned. With Wang Ting's current strength, even martial warriors within the third level of the heaven stage might have a hard time resisting the poison power of this abyssal hell devil lotus mode. I didn't expect it could be used this way. Wang Ting was both surprised and delighted as he realized the functions of the abyssal hell devil lotus. But most of it was happiness. The alteration of the demon lotus poison body allowed his ability to rise again. However, his happiness quickly turned into frustration when he saw the attribute requirements for the abyssal hell devil lotus mode. F***K. This abyssal hell devil lotus mode required 50,000 points of attributes to advance to the next stage. Mind you, he risked his life for the alteration of the demon lotus poison body and almost got eaten by the ghost venom vine. The alteration only required 10,000 points of attributes. Compared to now, the difference was huge. Wang Ting had no idea when he would be able to accumulate 50,000 points of attributes. Chapter 1910 Abyssal Hell Devil Lotus. Snake Race. 3. He shook his head and sighed, feeling that his path ahead was uncertain. He wondered how powerful the demon lotus poison body would become after it underwent another transformation. Wang Ting couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The attack he had just unleashed against the ghost venom vine, even though it couldn't harm the vine and was instantly obliterated, had displayed remarkable power. If he continued to evolve, he might be able to contend with the ghost venom vine. Unfortunately, I can't proceed further right now, Wang Ting sighed again. He then shifted his focus back to the attribute bubbles he had just absorbed. After the recent battle with the ghost venom vine, he had gathered quite a few attribute bubbles. Poison Constellation Force * 3000 Poison Constellation Force * 2500 Poison Constellation Force * 4200 Ghost Venom Vine * 1500 Ghost Venom Vine * 2200 Blank Attribute * 21,000 Blank Attribute * 16,000 That's quite a lot. Wang Ting's eyes lit up as he realized just how many attribute bubbles he had gathered. He hadn't expected to collect so many attribute points from cutting and burning a portion of the ghost venom vine's tendrils. Upon careful examination, he found that he had obtained a total of 32,800 points of the Constellation Poison Force. It was a significant amount. It was hard to imagine that these attribute bubbles were only from the severed and incinerated tendrils of the ghost venom vine. As these attributes merged into Wang Teng's body, a pure constellation poison force appeared in his limbs and flowed into his inner cosmos. Boom! In an instant, a loud explosion came from his body. At this moment, his constellation poison force advanced again. It went from the 4th level cosmos stage to the 5th level. Poison constellation force, 1580050,000, cosmos stage 5th level. Wang Teng glanced at the attributes board. After advancing to the 5th level, his constellation poison force had reached 15,800 points. The rapid breakthrough was largely attributed to the boost that Wang Teng's constellation poison force received when he used the World Devourer skill to absorb the mist. Now, with an additional 32,800 points of attribute values, his constellation poison force had not simply broken through to the 5th level. It had far exceeded by 15,800 points. I reached the 5th level of the Cosmos stage so quickly. Wang Teng was somewhat astonished. It felt like he hadn't done much, and the breakthrough had occurred so smoothly that he was still processing it. In reality, since his arrival on Scorpion Kingstar, even considering all the events that had transpired, it had only been a day or two. To ascend 4 levels so swiftly was almost unheard of. If other martial warriors were in his shoes, even with significant opportunities, they likely wouldn't accomplish such rapid growth. The members of the Swift Wing team would never have thought that Wang Teng could improve so quickly. Besides force attributes, The ghost venom vine attribute rose significantly too. He collected 5,300 points of it. Ghost venom vine, 2,305,000, specialized. In an instant, the proficiency of the ghost venom vine rose from foundation to specialized. Wang Ting felt that he would be able to execute it with greater proficiency. Finally, there were many blank attributes. There were 46,500 points in total. It was a good gain. Wang Ting didn't dwell on it any longer. His blank attribute points had already exceeded 4 million. It was ready for a massive burst of power when needed. This ghost venom vine is a big boss. It's very suitable for farming attributes. Wang Ting touched his chin and thought to himself. However, he didn't dare to take unnecessary risks. Escaping once had been a close call, and there was no guarantee he'd be as fortunate a second time. He understood the importance of cherishing his own life and not being too reckless. With that in mind, he stopped dwelling on the matter, took one last look into the foggy abyss, and then turned away. A spacecraft appeared in the sky. The cabin door opened and Wang Ting entered the spacecraft directly. Round ball, head northeast. Wang Ting appeared in the control room and gave orders. During the League of Talents, he left a space mark on Landon so that he could find him. This was a small application of space skills. Not just anyone could accomplish this. Heaven stage martial warriors could influence spatial forces through external means but couldn't truly wield them, so they can't accomplish this. However, Wang Ting possessed innate space talents, making it effortless for him. Landon was just a cosmos stage martial warrior. He wouldn't be able to discover anything. Unless he was a martial warrior with the space talent like Wang Ting. Unfortunately, he wasn't. Northeast. Round ball was surprised. Why are we going there? To look for Landon, Wang Ting replied. How do you know where he is? Round ball questioned in astonishment. I left a little something on him. Wang Ting grinned. Your smile looks cunning. Round ball said. Wang Ting, this guy doesn't know how to talk, does it? Cunning. It's a very clever grin. Round ball grinned secretly. It had achieved its goal of making Wang Ting annoyed. It didn't ask any more questions as it was unlikely to get any answers. Wang Ting must have some special method to be able to find Landon's location accurately. Based on his personality, he wouldn't tell him. The Scorpion King star was huge, but Wang Ting used his Devil Slayer spacecraft so he was able to travel quickly. In less than an hour, the spacecraft reached the vicinity of Landon's location. Wang Ting immediately instructed Round Ball to halt the spacecraft, and then he fell into the dense forest below. Before him lay a dense forest, filled with towering ancient trees. Even the shortest trees were at least 5 or 6 meters tall. Chapter 1911 Abyssal Hell Devil Lotus. Snake Race. For, many of these trees looked peculiar and distinct from ordinary trees. They grew uniquely, with branches that appeared gnarled and menacing, giving off an eerie vibe. These trees seem to be poisonous. Round Ball said uncertainly. They are indeed poisonous. Wang Ting walked over to a large tree, covered his palm with his force, and gently broke off a branch. A dark green sap oozed from it, emitting a strange odor. For ordinary warriors, even a whiff of this odor would likely make them feel dizzy and disoriented. But it had little effect on Wang Ting. This is probably a poisonous forest, he said grimly. It's said everywhere on the Scorpion King star is poisonous, Round Ball said. From the looks of it, it's true. Are there many planets like this in the poison erosion world? Wang Ting asked as he walked into the forest. Not many, but there are a few, Round Ball answered. I wonder what kind of beings would create such a world, Wang Ting marveled. The small world created by Eternal Stage Marquis Isnt something we can imagine, Round Ball said. Wang Ting's eyes revealed a hint of longing and anticipation. Someday, when he reached that level, what kind of world would he be able to create? Wang Ting swiftly dashed through the forest, heading towards the direction where Landon was located. To avoid detection, he had left his spaceship at a distance from Landon. It would take him several minutes to reach his destination. However, he was fast even though he didn't use his light bolt and only used his physical strength. His speed far exceeded that of an average Cosmos stage martial warrior. The trees around him flashed by, retreating, and their sharp branches and leaves could easily scratch a martial warrior's body. If someone were to be scratched by branches or thorns on the ground, they were highly likely to be poisoned. Even in the surrounding underbrush and trees, there was a possibility of encountering some poisonous scorpions or snakes, which could become lethal threats. However, these branches, thorns could not cut through Wang Ting's skin. When some of these poisonous creatures leaped out and attacked, they only pierced through his lingering shadow, leaving them perplexed as they watched him disappear into the distance. Approximately 6 minutes later, Wang Ting stopped his movement and hid behind a large tree. He activated his advanced stage morph talent and blended with the encompassing objects. His presence was concealed, making him appear non-existent. A figure approached from the front, about several hundred meters away, moving deeper into the forest. It was none other than Landon from the Parker's family. "Finally found you." Wang Ting watched the figure and a slight smile curved his lips. Landon didn't notice Wang Ting's presence. He continued to advance cautiously into the forest. He was not moving fast, even appearing somewhat cautious. The poisonous creatures in the surroundings were too dangerous for him. One small mistake could cost him dearly. Landon's expression was grave, and a hint of determination flickered in his eyes. At this moment, he was completely different from his usual self. He had transformed and was no longer the carefree individual he appeared to be. He had put away his smile, and his face had turned stern, revealing a trace of sharpness. Swoosh! A subtle breaking sound suddenly came from the nearby foliage. Landon's expression stiffened, and a grey-white flame immediately seemed in his hand, wiping out like a sharp claw. A small green snake suddenly lunged at Landon, but it was instantly caught by his large hand engulfed in grey-white flames, and crushed. Splat! The small snake instantly turned into a ball of fire and was reduced to ashes in an instant. However, after the snake was burned to ashes, a greyish-green gas began to emanate from it. Landon, caught off guard, had already inhaled some of the gas. His face immediately changed, showing a horrified expression. In a split second, his complexion turned somewhat pale and greenish, clearly indicating that he had been poisoned. Damn it! Landon cursed furiously. He hurriedly took out a jade bottle and swallowed one of the pills from it. Soon, the greenish pallor on his face was suppressed. Landon let out a sigh of relief, but his expression remained extremely serious and somewhat unpleasant. He wouldn't have come to this cursed planet if it weren't for that one thing. But he knew that obtaining that item was the key to subduing the divine flame. That way, he could rise in power. Whether it was the talents in his family or the geniuses of the stellar academies, he was confident that he could surpass them all and become a true top talent. Even Wang Ting, whom he had restrained himself against for now, would be within his reach. Even if they are not in the same stellar academy, Wang Ting's brilliance still overwhelmed him. Despite his usual nonchalant appearance, no one knew how he truly felt inside. Both Strachey and now Wang Ting, as well as the talents in the stellar academies, made it impossible for Landon to shine on his own. He knew that he was still lacking in several aspects and wasn't their match. After a brief recovery, Landon continued to move deeper into the forest without any intention of stopping. Interesting. Wang Ting watched Landon's performance from behind and couldn't help but show a hint of interest in his eyes. This Landon. Why does he seem like a different person? Round Ball couldn't help but comment. He's good at pretending. His previous appearance was probably just a facade. Wang Ting shook his head. People are truly unpredictable, Round Ball sighed. I thought he didn't care about competing. No way. Anyone who can enter the stellar academies is ambitious, Wang Ting said with a cold smile. Well, you're right, Round Ball pondered for a moment and then inquired curiously, but why did he come here? It seems he's looking for something, Wang Ting replied as he continued to follow Landon. I don't know what it is, but it's piqued my curiosity, Round Ball said. Wang Ting couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Round Ball's curiosity was even heavier than a cat's. There was no saving it. Landon moved through the forest, stopping now and then to dig up some poisonous plants or capture venomous creatures. This made Wang Ting completely uncertain about his real goal. However, he kept a close eye on Landon's expressions. The things he had collected so far didn't seem to elicit extreme joy on his face. This meant that they might not be his real objective. On the other hand, Wang Teng recognized several of the poisonous plants he was collecting as mission targets. Also, it overlapped with his missions. He touched his chin. This wasn't the right time for him to act. He would act after Landon found what he was looking for. At that time, those poisonous plants would become his. Yes, it was perfect. For now, his job was to stick closely to Landon's footsteps and ensure he didn't lose track of him. After following for about 2 hours, they suddenly heard sounds of breaking and shouting from the forest ahead, as if someone was approaching. Wang Teng narrowed his eyes and initiated his real eye to look ahead. He saw a figure with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a snake being pursued and rushing in Landon's direction. Snake race. Wang Teng was surprised. Chapter 1912 ISNT A Queen Better. 1. Snake Race. Wang Teng was surprised that a snake race martial warrior would appear here. The snake race, in the vast universe, constituted a significant but relatively small race compared to others. Their distinctive feature was their part human, part serpent appearance, with a snake-like lower body and a humanoid upper body, exuding an otherworldly charm. Especially the females, they were often exceptionally captivating and beautiful, coupled with their unique charisma. Those who understood would understand. Due to their entrancing features and exotic allure, the snake men in the universe were highly susceptible to becoming slaves, with a few powerful exceptions, of course. What was surprising was that there were snake men on the Scorpion King Star, and it seemed they were not outsiders but natives of the Scorpion King Star. One could tell from their clothes. Now, the poison erosion world was controlled by stellar academies. Those who came here were undoubtedly academy students, and there were no other outsiders. Academy students typically wore clothing with the academy's emblem, making it easy to identify them. These snake men wore somewhat rustic armor, with their snake lower bodies covered by attire resembling battle skirts. Furthermore, they also wore some strange headpieces on their heads, which looked incredibly antiquated and exuded a unique exotic charm. They were clearly not students of the Stellar Academy. In the front, there was a young snake man fleeing, appearing to be of celestial stage strength. In pursuit behind him was a group of snake women. Except for the leader, who was at the cosmos stage, the rest were at the celestial stage. Wang Ting's expression turned strange. What was going on? A group of women chasing a man. Were snake men this open-minded? Or was this snake man a scoundrel, and the snake women behind him were all victims of his deceit? In Wang Ting's mind, a series of melodramatic love-hate scenarios had already been imagined, and his eyes suddenly sparkled. This looked interesting. On the other side, Landon became instantly alert upon hearing the commotion. He moved swiftly and disappeared behind a large tree, concealing himself. Before long, the sound of their approach grew louder, and the group of snake folk appeared right in front of him. The snake women from behind were shouting something, but Wang Ting couldn't understand a word. It seemed to be something other than the common universal language. The snake men. Round Ball's taken-aback voice appeared in Wang Ting's mind. Round Ball, can you help me translate what they are saying? Wang Ting asked. Yes, sir. Round Ball activated the translator, which automatically converted the snake men language into the common universal language. Zagu, don't run. You can't escape. Come back with us obediently. As long as you serve Queen Lady well tonight, she will surely forgive you, the leader of the snake women shouted. Don't even dream about it. I, Zagu, am a proud warrior of the snake race. How could I serve that disgusting woman? The snake man roared without looking back. His voice was filled with anger and defiance, resolute as if he were made of steel, radiating a sense of unyielding determination. Wow! Wang Tung widened his eyes, realizing he had been too naive. The content hidden within these few sentences was truly remarkable. That snake man, Zagu, was not some scoundrel. He was a fearless warrior. And those snake women wanted to capture him to serve their queen lady. Oh my God! This was exciting. If it were him, he would have accepted right away. Why wouldn't you accept such a fantastic offer? Look at those captivating snake women. The serpent race queen lady must be quite impressive herself. What's more, it was the queen. Wasn't a queen better? Just thinking about it made him unable to sleep. The fact that Zigoo actually refused and ran away was inhumane. Were all the snake men so lucky? Wang Teng's thoughts had completely gone off track. On the other hand, Wang Teng noticed that Landon's eyes seemed to light up when he saw the snake men appear. Could it be an illusion? Later, it seemed that Landon also heard the exchange between the snake men using the translator, and his expression became a bit bewildered. This situation was not what he had anticipated either. But before he could react, that snake man, Zigoo, actually charged directly in his direction. Landon briefly thought he had been exposed. However, judging by the look on the snake man's face, it seemed like everything was just a coincidence. How dare you? How dare you insult Queen Lady? Zigoo, do you want to become a criminal in our snake race? Zaga's earlier words had infuriated the snake women behind him. They couldn't tolerate anyone insulting their queen. Bang! The leader of the snake women brandished a long whip made of snakeskin and fiercely lashed out towards Zigoo. However, she didn't seem to want to harm the snake man. The whip struck slightly off target, intended more to block his path. In the end, boom! The whip struck the very tree where Landon was hiding. The leader of the snakefolk women was at the cosmos stage. Although she hadn't used her full strength, a simple whip strike was enough to split the tree apart completely. With a resounding bang, the tree exploded into pieces. Landon's face turned black. He was so frustrated he wanted to vomit blood. He flew out from behind the tree. Chapter 1913 ISNT A Queen Better? 2. Wang Ting watched in astonishment and couldn't help but sympathize with Landon. This guy was incredibly unlucky. He just casually hid somewhere, and he was found so easily. Could there be anyone unluckier than him? Who is it? The snake women in the lead immediately spotted Landon and shouted. Zigoo was also startled by Landon's sudden appearance. He stopped his advance and watched Landon warily. Landon didn't make any sudden moves. Appearing about a kilometer away, he glanced at the snake man with a somewhat ominous expression. He didn't blame the snake women, but he harbored quite a bit of resentment towards this snake man. If the snake man didn't run here, he wouldn't have been discovered. At this moment, all three parties came to a halt, entering an eerie silence. You're not from this planet. You're an outsider, aren't you? The leader of the snake women looked at Landon and said coldly. I mean no harm. Landon took a deep breath and put on his innocent and harmless demeanor again as he spoke. I'm just a lost traveler, here to search for some poison. Temph, outsiders like you can't be trusted. You've killed many of our kin, the leader snorted, clearly not buying into Landon's sweet talk. She then turned to Zigoo and said, Zigoo, if you're still a snake man, join us in killing this outsider. Landon's face immediately changed. He didn't expect these snake men to be so unforgiving. He had barely said a word, and they were already planning to kill him. Moreover, it seemed there was no room for reconciliation. He couldn't help but curse the previous Stellar Academy students. How many snake men had they killed to earn such hatred from these beings? In the end, on planets like the Scorpion Kingstar, which were controlled by the Stellar Academies, the native inhabitants were often considered inferior by the Academy students. They didn't care about the lives of the natives. While some individuals might refrain from killing guileless people, many warriors viewed the natives as insignificant and expendable. So over the years, the snake men had indeed lost many of their own, and the deep-seated hatred wasn't something that possibly be easily resolved. Upon hearing the words of the snake woman, Zaga's expression changed slightly. Then, with a cold gaze, he looked at Landon and snorted, I am Zigoo, a warrior of the snake race. I know what is right and wrong. Very good. The snake women leader shouted, attack. Landon's face turned pale, and he cursed under his breath as he immediately retreated. Boom. The snake man and the snake woman both unleashed their force attacks, blasting them toward Landon. What surprised Landon was that although the snake man's strength was at the 9th level of the celestial stage, he was in no way weaker than a cosmos stage warrior. He wielded a peculiar curved blade and unleashed waves of blade glows. Within these blade energies was the power of domain, making them extremely powerful. It was no wonder the snakewoman had asked him for help. Of course, the snakewoman's strength was not to be underestimated either. She appeared to be at least at the 3rd level of the cosmos stage. Her snakeskin whip produced a barrage of whip shadows. The other snakewomen didn't join the fight. They stayed on the sidelines to support the two combatants. Not everyone could fight someone of a higher stage. Landon summoned a long spear, and grey-white flames enveloped it as he met the attacks of the two snakemen. The grey-white flames turned into specks of spear light, exuding scorching heat. Landon has become much stronger, Wang Teng exclaimed in surprise. Has ascended to the cosmos stage and his understanding of domains has deepened significantly. It's at least at the 4th rank of domains. Round Ball, with its keen insight, immediately assessed Landon's strength. Wang Teng nodded, but his attention was more focused on the snake man and the snakewoman's leader. What interested him was that both of these snake men were poison element martial artists. Also, they had grasped the power of domain. Together, they were on par with Landon. Boom, boom, boom. Their attacks were filled with venom, sweeping across the area and causing the surrounding vegetation to wither. It was worth noting that these plants were inherently toxic, yet they still succumbed to the attacks of the two snake men. The poison powers of these snake men were not to be underestimated. However, Landon was a talented student of stellar academies. He wouldn't lose to these two natives. What's more, his fire element had a restraining effect on poison, especially the ash flame, which wasn't an ordinary flame and possibly incinerate poison force even more effectively. Their attacks had reached the cosmos stage. They caused chaos in the area and caused widespread devastation. In just moments, the area spanning tens of thousands of meters had turned into their battleground. Countless trees were destroyed, and many star beasts perished in the aftermath of their attacks. Even Wang Ting had to step back and avoid their combat zone to avoid detection. The snake men are going to lose. Wang Ting looked at them for some time before shaking his head. As expected. Boom. As soon as he said that, Landon, feeling a bit annoyed by the ongoing scuffle, unleashed a blinding light from his spear. His 4th rank domain was fully unleashed. The two snake men were drawn into an area filled with grey-white flames. In just a few breaths, they were defeated. A tremendous roar echoed, and the residual force waves carried a burning aura that permeated the surroundings. Chapter 1914 ISNT A Queen Better? 3. The snake men didn't even see Landon's attacking method. A streak of spear glow swept across the sky, sending both of them flying. Bang! Bang! The two snake men plummeted from the sky, crashing heavily onto the ground, emitting 2 dull thuds. They were severely injured, with tiny spear marks leaving bloody wounds all over their bodies. Blood was flowing steadily from their wounds, and there were even scorched black marks from the flames near their injuries. Splat! Both of them struggled to their feet from the ground, exchanged a horrified glance, and then suddenly spat out blood. Landon descended from the sky, hovering a few meters above their heads, looking down at them. He pointed his spear at them from a distance and spoke in a cold voice, "Submit, or die. Damn it. Look at him acting." Wang Teng, watching from the shadows, saw this scene and was instantly infuriated. This Landon, who usually seemed incapable of doing anything, turned out to be so cunning. Round Ball, _ this fellow's focus was a little crooked. The two snake men had ashen faces, their eyes glaring fiercely at Landon. One of them said, "You can forget it. The snake race will never submit. Then you might as well die." Landon's expression turned cold, and he aggressively thrust his spear, aiming to take the lives of the two. So ruthless. Wang Teng squinted slightly, surprised that Landon acted so decisively. He had only said one sentence, and even if the other party didn't agree to submit, couldn't he try to persuade them a bit more? He might be able to convince them to surrender after a few more persuasions. This Landon seemed inexperienced. If it were him, he was confident he could make these two snake men realize their mistake and move them enough to choose submission. There was nothing that couldn't be resolved through communication. Not every problem can be solved by force. However, These two snake men seemed incredibly stubborn. They just stared at the spear being thrust toward them without any fear. Swoosh! Just at that moment, a sound of breaking air reached them, heading straight for Landon. Landon's expression slightly changed, and he had to change the direction of his spear, thrusting it to the left. Boom! A violent collision erupted, and force rippled outward. Landon was forcefully pushed back dozens of meters before managing to halt his momentum. He looked gravely at the newcomer. A burly snake man had appeared in the sky, towering even larger than both Zagu and the snake women leader. His serpentine lower body coiled in mid-air, exuding a powerful and oppressive presence. Heaven Stage Martial Warrior. Wang Teng was surprised. It looks like these snake men are quite powerful. There's a Heaven Stage Martial Warrior. Round Ball's voice appeared in Wang Teng's mind. It's not surprising. This planet is so vast. It shouldn't be difficult for them to nurture a Heaven Stage Martial Warrior, Wang Teng replied, communicating mentally with Round Ball. Mainly, it's about resources and legacies. Perhaps this planet holds a legacy left by that powerful individual, Round Ball speculated. Are you saying that the snake men inherited the legacy? Wang Ting paused, pondering. Maybe, we'll need to investigate their living area to confirm, Round Ball replied. The fact that this Heaven Stage snake man arrived so quickly means that the snakeman's dwelling is nearby, Wang Ting said, his eyes glinting. That's possible. Would you like to go and check it out? Round Ball asked. Let's assess the situation first, Wang Teng replied. I'm not sure if Landon can handle the opponent. While Wang Teng and Round Ball were exchanging thoughts in secret, the snake men recognized the newcomer. Lord Marong. The snake women shouted with joy. Zagus' expression turned pale, and he looked at the newly arrived snake men with apprehension. Zagu. Marong, the snake man, addressed him with a deep, somber voice. Zagus' face turned pale. After a few moments of hesitation, he spoke, Master. You have disappointed me greatly, Marong spoke with an expressionless face. Go back and beg forgiveness from Queen. Zagu remained silent, with a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Marong no longer paid him any attention and turned his gaze towards Landon, his eyes filled with killing intent. Outsider human. Landon changed serious. This snake man had reached the Heaven Stage. He might not be his match. Boom. Marong wasted no time with words. He wielded a curved blade, much larger than the others, and swung it fiercely at Landon. A terrifying blade aura burst forth, crossing half the heavens and arriving above Landon in an instant. Landon couldn't afford to be careless. He shouted, and endless grey-white flames surged out from within him, coming together on the tip of his spear. Boom! A single thrust erupted, forming a grey-white fire dragon that met the oncoming frightening blade aura head-on. The power of domain erupted. Landon directly used his 4th rank domain power, condensing it into this thrust and engaging in a ferocious clash with the opponent. Boom! An enormous roar echoed as the forces clashed in the sky, creating powerful shockwaves. That outsider human dared to directly confront Lord Marong's attack. Hez overestimating himself, the snake woman sneered. Boom! In the next moment, Landon's grey-white fire dragon was indeed severed by the blade aura, splitting into two and emitting a mournful cry before collapsing. The blade aura's momentum remained unchanged as it continued to rush towards Landon. Dragon blood battle physique. Landon's pupils constricted as he shouted. Grey-white flames spewed out from him once more, rapidly coming together into strange grey-white flame patterns on his body. Chapter 1915 ISNT A Queen Better? 4. Roar. Immediately, he let out a roar, and his fists pounded fiercely toward the blade energy above his head. Boom! The flames condensed into a fist imprint and struck forcefully against the blade energy, barely managing to block it at this moment. Both attacks scattered in the air and annihilated each other. However, Landon was still sent flying backward, with the swirling shockwaves all acting on him. It seemed that there was still a significant gap in strength between Landon and Marlon. Fart! Landon smacked onto the ground and vomited a mouth of blood. His face turned ashen instantly. That's it. Wang Teng's eyes widened, feeling that something was not quite right. The geniuses from the stellar academies, even when facing opponents one stage higher, should not be defeated so easily. They had the ability to fight beyond their stage. It wasn't infeasible for a Cosmos stage martial warrior to defeat a Heaven stage martial warrior. Most of the Stellar Academy's students would crush ordinary martial warriors when they went outside. Considering the burst of power displayed just now, a native of Scorpion Kingstar like this Snake Man couldn't defeat a genius student from the Stellar Academies so easily. At this moment, Marong landed on the ground and walked towards Landon. He stared at him coldly and said, "Humans from outside deserve to die. But I will take you back to the Queen for her judgment. Bind him and take him back." The last sentence was directed at the other snake men. Yes. The lady in the lead immediately cast an admiring glance at Marong and then quickly agreed. Landon seemed extremely weak and couldn't resist. He was tied up immediately. Zagu wanted to sneak away, but under Marlon's stern gaze, he could only reluctantly give up resistance. "You did well by assisting our tribe against the outsiders just now." Marlon's gaze softened, and he patted Zagus' shoulder. "Master." Zagus' lips moved as he called out with some emotion. "But you must come back with me to serve our queen," Marong said. "Zagu, Fut." Wang Ting almost burst out giggling when he overheard the conversation between the master and disciple. What kind of master is this? He wants his disciple to go back and serve their queen. Is this what they call loyalty? Is he pushing his disciple into a snare, or is he asking him to go back to enjoy life? Wang Ting suddenly got curious. What does this queen look like that makes this snake man resist so fiercely? After the snake women tied up Landon, they started discussing him with great interest. "This human looks quite good. Soft and tender. We can make him a male slave. Yeah, my sisters will like him. I wonder if the little snakes born from him will be cute." Landon. Wang Teng, ha ha ha, they're capturing Landon and making him give birth to little snake men. Round balls laughter echoed in Wang Teng's mind. These snake women sure are open-minded. Wang Teng remarked. At this moment, Marong broke their discussion and loudly commanded, "Take the prisoner back. Bring him back." Yes. The group of snake women promptly carried Landon and followed Marong as they flew into the forest. It seems like something exciting is about to happen. Wang Ting rubbed his chin, a hint of intrigue playing on his lips. He collected the attribute bubbles left behind from the recent battle. Fire Constellation Force * 2300 Dragon Blood Battle Physique, 4th rank, * 300 Ash Flame * 600 Poison Constellation Force * 2000 Poison Constellation Force * 2600 Poison Constellation Force * 3500 Poison Domain * 200 Poison Domain * 500 Inch Not a Bad Harvest. Wang Ting smiled faintly to himself. Then his figure flickered, and he followed suit. After flying for about a dozen kilometers within the forest, the group of snake people slowly came to a halt. In front of them, a massive forest city came into Wang Teng's view. The city was enormous, standing tall within the forest. Chapter 1916 Rui Snake City. Little Chinga. 1. A massive city stood tall within the dense forest, surrounded by towering trees that reached into the sky. If one looked from afar, they might not even notice the presence of this city. This scene was particularly magnificent. Who would have thought that such a colossal city could exist deep within the lush forest? The forest itself was unique, somewhere between a regular forest and a rainforest. It was incredibly humid, with numerous rivers and streams crisscrossing through it. Along the way, Wang Teng and the others had encountered many rivers and swamps. Now, standing before this immense city, they felt a profound sense of antiquity that washed over them. It was a sensation that left all outsiders deeply impressed. At the same time, they couldn't help but guess the history of the city, pondering just how many years it had stood there. As they approached the city gate, Landon noticed something about his surroundings, and a glint of excitement flashed in his eyes. Wang Ting had been keeping a close eye on him, and he couldn't help but become more intrigued by Landon's reactions. The snake men landed from the sky with Landon and walked towards the gates of the city. The gate of the city was massive, standing at least 10 feet tall. A group of snake people guards was stationed on both sides of the gate, and anyone passing through had to undergo their inspection. Despite the city's remote location deep within the forest, security was tight, suggesting that it was not entirely isolated from the outside world. Lord Marong. The group of guards recognized Marlon and immediately bowed respectfully. When they bowed, their lower snake bodies would slightly crouch, while their upper bodies would bend as humans do. They also placed their hands over their chests. "Open the gate," Marong said calmly. The guards quickly moved aside to let Marong and his group pass. After Marong and the others entered the city, the guards began to whisper among themselves. "Is that a human from outside? It should be. We heard fighting outside just now, and Marong personally rushed over to capture him. Marong is truly powerful. Of course, Marong is the fourth strongest in our race. Even Zagu is caught. How dare he run away? I wonder how Queen will punish him. It's his honor to serve Her Highness. He's so insensible to run away." The guards' discussions provided Wang Ting with valuable information. The fourth strongest among the snake people. Wang Ting's eyes flickered, and he pondered for a moment. This meant that there were likely 3 more individuals who were stronger than Marong. Without universe-stage martial warriors, this Snake Men city wouldn't be a significant threat to Wang Ting. Escaping wouldn't be a problem. Another crucial piece of information was, these Snake Men felt that it was a privilege to serve their queen. It looked like their customs were a little different. "I hope you're not getting lost in your thoughts." Thief moved further away. "So how do we get inside?" Round Ball interjected, sensing that Wang Ting was thinking of random things. Cough. Wang Ting cleared his throat and said confidently, "Don't worry, there's no portal I can't enter." "I'll be waiting to see that," Round Ball replied with a chuckle. Wang Ting proceeded to circle the city in search of a way in. However, he soon realized that both the front and back gates of the city were guarded, with snake people sentinels stationed on the city walls. It seemed like every few steps there was a guard or watchtower. Silence. Wang Ting stood on a large tree, gazing at the fortress-like city, lost in thought. "Ha ha ha," Round Ball laughed. "Can you stop laughing? What's so funny?" Wang Ting retorted, somewhat irritated. "Didn't you say there's no door you can't enter?" Round Ball chuckled. "Me." Wang Ting snorted and said, "It seems I'll have to use my ace in the hole." "What's your ace in the hole?" Round Ball asked curiously. "Watch closely." Wang Ting smiled faintly, and his entire body began to transform. His lower half gradually morphed into a serpent's tail, and in the blink of an eye, he had transformed into an authentic snake man. F***K. F***K. Round Ball couldn't help but exclaim, completely caught off guard by Wang Ting's ace in the hole. This was cheating. Turning himself into a snake man was quite the unexpected move. Round Ball materialized beside Wang Ting, and it scrutinized him from head to tail. Its expression becoming increasingly peculiar. "Your ability is truly something else. Even with my current domain realm spiritual power, I couldn't detect it at all," Round Ball remarked. "That's why it's called an ace in the hole," Wang Ting uttered with a smug smile. "You're enjoying this, huh?" Round Ball rolled its eyes, then rubbed its chin, adding, "But you should change your clothes, otherwise, given the strictness of those guards, you might still not get in." "Good point." Wang Ting looked at his attire and nodded. He then vanished from his current location and appeared in the nearby woods near the metropolis gates. His eyes were fixed on the city gate. After waiting for about 10 minutes, a lone snake man emerged from the metropolis gate. It appeared that the guards were familiar with this individual, and they exchanged a few words before letting him pass and leave the city. Wang Ting followed closely, observing the person and seeking an opportunity to act. "He's a Cosmos stage martial warrior." He activated his real eye and was surprised when he saw the other party's cultivation. Chapter 1917 Rui Snake City. Little Chinga. 2. He could guarantee that there weren't many Cosmos stage martial warriors among the snake race. Yet, the one who came out was one. What kind of luck was this? Wang Ting's mind raced with thoughts, and he began considering another plan. If he were to take on the appearance of this snake man, Would it make things easier? After all, even if he transformed into a snake man, entering the city as a stranger might still be challenging. Wang Teng followed behind the snake man and flew for more than 10 kilometers. He arrived at a valley and prepared to make his move. This distance should be safe from detection. As long as he acted swiftly, dealing with a Cosmostage snake man shouldn't be a problem. However, the next scene made him hesitate for a moment. These cloud serpent grass specimens look great. I'm so lucky to find cloud serpent grass today. I'll bring it back to little Chinga. It should help her hold on for several more days, the snake man happily muttered to himself. Wang Teng suddenly felt a bit hesitant about taking action. From the snake man's words, he could gather that there might be a sick person in this snake man's family. Although the snake men generally had a hostile attitude towards so-called outsider humans like him, there wasn't any personal enmity between him and these snake men. Upon hearing the situation, he couldn't help but feel some compassion. So he decided to wait and observe a bit more. The snake man seemed to be quite familiar with this valley, walking around and gathering various poisonous plants. This snake man seems to be an alchemist. Round Ball said curiously. Do you think there might be alchemists among the snake men? Wang Teng asked. I don't know. If it's outside, there will be some. However, it's hard to say for the natives of Scorpion King Star, Round Ball replied. Wang Teng nodded. He didn't say anything else and continued observing the snake man. After some time, he saw 2 attribute bubbles dropping from the other party. Wang Teng's eyes flickered, and his spiritual power quietly extended from underground, reaching out to retrieve the 2 attribute bubbles. Poison skill * 120 poison skill * 150 poison skill. Wang Teng was surprised for a moment. Could this snake man be a poison master? The 2 attribute bubbles gave him 270 points of poison skill attributes. His poison master level was already at the master level, so normal poison mastery wouldn't be able to help him. However, the attribute bubbles dropped by this snake man could continue to enhance his skill, indicating that the snake man's proficiency in poison was superior to his. Poison Master, 1540 10,000, Master. As the attribute bubbles merged into his mind, Wang Teng immediately felt a significant increase in his knowledge of poison. He closed his eyes and immersed himself in understanding the newly acquired information. This snake man must be a poison master. What's more, he's at the master level. Wang Teng opened his eyes. There was a cunning glow in them. This prey, he would take his time with. Wang Teng decided not to take action just yet and continued to observe the snake man from the shadows, waiting to see if he would drop more attribute bubbles. The snake man didn't disappoint him. While gathering various poisonous plants, he occasionally released 1 or 2 attribute bubbles. Wang Teng picked them up promptly. Before long, he had collected 680 points of attribute value, significantly boosting his Poison Master attribute. Poison Master, 2220 10,000, Master. However, towards the end, the attributes dropped by the snake creature decreased. Gradually, it stopped altogether. He had probably reached his limit. Wang Teng felt a bit disappointed but had no other choice. His proficiency in poison might have surpassed the snake man's by now. After all, they were both at the master level. Wang Teng had absorbed the snake man's insights into poison, potentially surpassing him. Half a day later, the snake man seemed to have collected enough poisonous plants and even captured some venomous insects like scorpions and centipedes. He was preparing to return. Wang Teng knew he couldn't wait any longer. While he empathized with the snake man, he had his priorities and had to take action. At the very least, he wouldn't take the snake man's life. He speedily appeared behind the snake creature and launched an attack. This time, he didn't use his force battle technique. Instead, he used his spirit battle technique, Divine Sonic Wave. His spiritual power created vibrations that were sent directly into the snake man's ears. Since Wang Teng was right behind him and at an extremely close range, the snake man had no time to react. The spiritual fluctuation caused by the Divine Sonic Wave shocked the snake man. He felt dizzy and couldn't oppose at all. Wang Teng moved again, appearing right in front of the snake man. Look at my eyes. With the entrancing sound resonating, The snake man's gaze instinctively focused on Wang Ting's eyes. A crimson light flashed in Wang Ting's pupils. Bewitch. When the skill was activated, the snake man's gaze turned blurry. He lost his consciousness instantly. The other party's spiritual power wasn't as powerful as Wang Ting's, so he had no chance of resisting. It's done. Wang Ting smiled slightly and began to question him under the influence of bewitch. The snake creature answered all questions willingly and truthfully. Gradually, Wang Ting learned about the snake man's identity. His name was Zeli and he did hold a significant position among the snake men. He was a master-level poison master and also an alchemist who had saved the lives of many snake men, earning him considerable respect and standing within their community. Chapter 1918 Rui Snake City. Little Chinga. 3. At the same time, Wang Teng learned that the city was called Rui Snake City, inhabited by the Rui Snake tribe. The Rui Snake tribe was one of the 3 most powerful snakemen tribes in the forest. Their queen, Queen Ruelan, was a peak heaven stage martial warrior with formidable strength, ensuring the safety of her tribe. However, Queen Ruelan had some peculiar preferences. She liked young and handsome men, and she easily tired of them. She could choose any man she liked in her tribe. The young and handsome males within the tribe considered it an honor to be chosen by her. Being close to the queen was a dream for many. Zagu was one of the chosen ones, but he strongly resisted serving Queen Ruelan, which led him to flee. Unfortunately, he met Landon. Before he could run out of the Rui Snake City, he was caught and brought back. Upon hearing this, Wang Teng couldn't help but feel a mix of amusement and sympathy. No wonder the snake man called Zagu wanted to escape. Serving a queen like that was a tough commitment. However, according to Zeli, Queen Ruelan was, aside from her quirks, a benevolent ruler who genuinely cared for her people. The prosperity and stability of Rui Snake City were largely thanks to her protection. Alright, this was just a small flaw. Wang Ting shook his head. He removed the headdress and clothes from Zeli's body, donned them himself, and used his advanced stage morph talent to assume Zeli's appearance. Ice force surged out of his body and formed an ice mirror in his hand. He looked at himself and nodded in satisfaction. Very good. Perfect. Wang Teng looked at Zeli and threw him into the space fragment. He asked the metal armor Flaming Scorpion and the others to guard him in case he wreaked havoc in the space fragment after he woke up. Wang Teng didn't plan to harm Zeli. He would release him after he finished his business. After settling these matters, Wang Teng carried Zeli's herb basket and wanted to go back to the Rui Snake City. Suddenly, he stopped and touched his chin. He forgot one thing. Language. The snakeman's language wasn't the common universal language. He only understood the snakeman's language through Roundball's translation. He could use the translation device to translate it into the common universal language. Landon did this when he was interacting with the snake men. However, since Wang Ting desired to disguise himself as a snake man, he couldn't use a translator. That would expose his identity directly. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Wang Teng took Zeli out of the space fragment. The lightning slap appeared in his hand. I'm sorry. Wang Ting coughed and brought down the lightning slap onto Zeli's head. Normally, striking the head of a species with a foreign language would release language-related attribute bubbles. This time, Wang Ting didn't use his full force. He only hit him gently on the head a few times to avoid harming him. Soon, several characteristic bubbles popped out of Zeli's head. Cosmos Realm Spirit * 600 Snakemen Language * 300 Snakemen Language * 260 Poison Skill * 50 As expected, there's Snakemen language. Wang Teng's eyes lit up. He heaved a sigh of relief. He obtained the characteristic for the Snakemen language, eliminating his last vulnerability. Good, it was finally perfect. Snakemen language, 16500, specialized, 560 points of attributes was enough for his Snakemen language to rise from the foundation to the specialized stage. However, to be safe, he still used his blank attribute to raise the Snakemen language to the big achievement stage. Anyway, it just required a little more than 1,000 points. Snakemen language, 1000, big achievement, He couldn't help but admit that compared to the hundreds of thousands or even millions of characteristic points he had now, the mere 1,000 points didn't seem like much. Having completely mastered the snake men language, Wang Teng finally exhaled a sigh of relief. He glanced apologetically at the swollen-headed Zeli hanging in the air and placed him back in the space fragment. Finally, without hesitation, he flew straight towards the direction of Rui Snake City. In no time, Rui Snake City came into view. Wang Teng descended from the sky and swaggered directly towards the city gate. "Master Zeli, you had a good harvest today." One of the guards at the city gate recognized the transformed Zeli and greeted him respectfully. "I was lucky today." Wang Teng mimicked Zeli's tone and nodded. After exchanging a few words with the guards, he entered the city gate without any hindrance, finally stepping into this ancient city that belonged to the snake men. How about it? How about it? I made it in, right?" Wang Teng proudly stated to Round Ball. "Don't show off." Round Ball rolled its eyes and said, "All right, let's get going. Don't let anyone see through your disguise." "Don't worry, nothing will go wrong." Wang Teng walked along one of the main roads of Rui Snake City toward the city center. Since he was impersonating Zeli, he had thoroughly investigated everything about Zeli, including the layout of Rui Snake City and his place of residence. So, he walked through the city without feeling lost. He had a mental map of Rui Snake City in his mind, and he rapidly found the designated location. However, Wang Teng didn't rush back immediately. He walked through the streets, observing his surroundings. This Snake Men city had a unique charm. The snake men moved gracefully on the streets, giving the impression that they were dancing. Chapter 1919 Rui Snake City. Little Chinga. 4. Especially the snake women. The way they swayed their waists was mesmerizing. Wang Teng almost couldn't take his eyes off them. It was even more exciting than watching a group of girls in short skirts on a hot summer day. Of course, the main reason was that the snake women were all extremely beautiful. Wang Teng hadn't seen a single unattractive one as he walked through the city. Not a single one. Combine that with their inherent seductive charm, and it was truly irresistible. Wang Teng suddenly understood why some people in the universe were fond of snake women slaves. It wasn't a peculiar fetish. It was a universal vulnerability for men. Ahem, back to business. Seriously speaking, Wang Teng was a decent person. He didn't just ogle at the beauties. He paid more attention to observing his surroundings, the customs, and the culture of the snake men. He found this very interesting. In the vast expanse of the universe, he was destined to travel to many places, each with its own unique features and beautiful scenery. These were all the landscapes on his life's voyage to be savored slowly. If he only glanced at them without appreciating the details, it would be a substantial loss. Before long, Wang Teng arrived at the abode of Zeli located near the center of Rui Snake City. Zeli's status wasn't low. His residence was situated near the city center, with a substantial area. As he walked, many snake men greeted him. Although he didn't know any of them, he had learned about Zeli's character and knew that he was a relatively friendly person. So, in response to the greetings from those around him, he greeted them back one by one, trying to align himself with Zeli's persona. Before him was a courtyard with snake men architectural style. The gate was tightly closed and adorned with a pair of serpent-shaped door handles. Wang Teng approached, took out a key from his pocket, and opened the gate before walking in. "Daddy." As soon as he entered, a tiny figure rushed towards him. Even though Wang Teng was prepared, he couldn't help but stiffen for a moment upon hearing the exclamation. My goodness, is this an unexpected fatherhood? But he quickly snapped back to reality, reminding himself that it was all an act. He swiftly caught the tiny figure that pounced on him and spun around in place. Little Chinga, did you make a fuss at home today? Wang Ting gently placed the tiny figure down and casually examined her, asking with a warm smile. This was a rather frail girl, standing at less than half his height, making her appear incredibly petite. What surprised Wang Ting was that this young snake girl was different from the snake women he had seen earlier. She didn't exude the same enticing aura. Instead, she gave off an air of purity and elegance. Perhaps due to her young age, She also had a hint of playfulness. However, her complexion was extremely pale, as if she was suffering from illness and pain. Her eyes were very bright, a glossy black that shone brilliantly, indicating that she was an extremely intelligent child. Wang Ting became slightly more cautious. The little girl and Zeli had a close relationship, and if she were particularly perceptive, even his well-executed act might be exposed. When Daddy isn't here, Chinga just rests at home without causing any trouble. The little girl pouted. She seemed unhappy that Zeli didn't trust her. Haha, that's great. Your body can't handle too much stress. Come and see what Daddy has brought back for you. Wang Ting took the basket from his back and placed it on the ground. Wow, so many snake spirit grass. Daddy, your harvest today is quite impressive. Little Chinga's eyes lit up as she inspected the contents of the basket. She carefully picked out a stalk of snake spirit grass and exclaimed happily, "It's a 30-year-old snake spirit grass, how rare. Daddy will make it into medicine for you to eat tonight," Wang Ting mentioned affectionately, patting his daughter's head. Okay. Little Chinga obediently nodded and then rubbed her tummy, saying, "Daddy, I'm hungry." "Haha, come, Daddy will prepare food for you." Wang Ting chuckled and led her to the dining area. Wang Ting genuinely found the little girl adorable and couldn't help but smile from the bottom of his heart. He had even begun to immerse himself in the role. Perhaps it was this sincerity that led little Chinga not to detect anything wrong with Wang Ting, at least for the time being. By the time Wang Ting returned, evening had fallen. While he was eager to find Landon, he decided to settle the girl first when he saw how weak she was. He walked into the house and prepared to make some food. This was one of his specialties. However, Zeli's culinary skills weren't very good. The food he made was barely edible. Thus, Wang Ting didn't plan to make anything gourmet, just something passable. He took out some meat from the house, all of it star beast meat that Zeli had stored, along with some fruits and vegetables. Snakeman's cuisine was quite simple, consisting mainly of grilled meat, meat broth, and flatbreads. Wang Ting didn't intend to make anything fancy. He chose to make some grilled meat and meat broth, keeping it simple and convenient. He was a force chef grandmaster. This wasn't a big deal for him. Little Chinga sat cross-legged on the side with hands propping up her cheeks as she watched him cook intently. Watching her father busy himself in the kitchen was her favorite pastime. Watching him cook, prepare medicine, or tend to patients, to her, her father was the most incredible person in the world. But, she found it a little strange. Her father's cooking seemed more skillful than usual. He wasn't as clumsy as before. Moreover, it smells so good. Her eyes lit up, and she moved closer. Wang Ting was a bit puzzled. Did it smell good? Really? He realized that he might have overestimated Zeli's cooking skills. Chapter 1920 Mysterious Snake Race Lady. Unusual Stone. 1. Wang Ting thought the food he was preparing was just average. However, he seemed to have overestimated Zeli's cooking skills. When little Chinga exclaimed that it smelled good, he felt a cold sweat break out on his back. He could easily subdue little Chinga if she discovered anything. Dealing with such a young and delicate little girl wasn't hard. However, when he saw her somewhat pale complexion and her bright, wide eyes, Wang Ting suddenly found it difficult to carry out such an action. He shifted his gaze nervously and chuckled. Is it? Daddy has been working hard to improve his cooking skills recently. Yes. Little Chinga didn't seem to suspect anything, nodding her little head continuously as she fixed her dark eyes on the food in front of her. She was making her own calculations. Her father's usual cooking was terrible. Since he finally made something delicious, she shouldn't discourage him. Such a little foodie. Wang Ting chuckled inwardly, feeling relieved. Being a foodie was good. Foodies were the easiest to fool. After placing the prepared food on the table, little Chinga couldn't wait and climbed onto the table. Eat up. Wang Ting smiled. As he watched the young snake girl eat, he also kept sensing the space imprint he had left on Landon. He felt relieved when he noticed that the mark didn't move. Delicious. Delicious. Little Chinga, despite her frail appearance, had a hearty appetite. She ate quickly and occasionally praised, "Daddy, your cooking has improved a lot. Keep up the good work." Got it, got it. Wang Ting shook his head with a wry smile. This little girl acted like a little adult. It was quite fun to interact with her. This was probably their way of getting along. After finishing the meal, Wang Ting thought for a moment. He wasn't in a hurry to act. Landon hadn't moved, so there was no point in acting now. Instead, he began to prepare medicine for little Chinga, aiming to alleviate her medical condition. Wang Ting entered the room where Zeli usually prepared medicines, and a strong herbal aroma hit him as soon as he opened the door. As an alchemist, Wang Ting was intimately familiar with the scents of various herbs. At this moment, he could easily identify the types of medicines Zeli commonly concocted based on their fragrances. The most prominent scent was that of cloud serpent grass, which was likely used to prepare medicine for little Chinga. Following the scent, Wang Ting reached at a shelf and picked up a jade bottle containing 3 dark pills. He took out one of them and sniffed it, instantly recognizing the blend of various medicinal herbs. Zeli was indeed a master-level poison and medicine expert. His mastery of various plants was top-notch and his concoctions were remarkable. However, in Wang Ting's opinion, there were still many flaws. If he were to use his alchemical skills to prepare this medicine, its quality and efficacy would be significantly superior than what Zeli had produced. But in front of little Chinga, it wasn't suitable to reveal such advanced techniques, lest she become suspicious. Every time Zeli prepared medicine, this little girl would watch closely. Wang Ting couldn't avoid her. Wang Ting also examined some of the remaining medicinal residues left behind by Zeli's unsuccessful attempts and sniffed them. "What are you doing, Daddy?" Little Chinga asked curiously, her eyes wide open. "In reviewing the lessons from my failures," Wang Ting replied with a faint smile. "But Daddy, didn't you review it a few days ago after you finished making it?" Little Chinga asked. "You can never review too many times. Sometimes, unforeseen insights can emerge," Wang Ting calmly replied. "Oh, let me have a look too." Little Chinga leaned closer, sniffing the medicinal residue in Wang Ting's hand. The pungent odor seemed to irritate her, making her sneeze, and she wrinkled her brow, saying, "It seems about the same." "Ha ha ha," Wang Ting couldn't help but laugh. "If you can tell the difference, you'll be a master." Little Chinga huffed, feeling a bit defiant. She said, "One day, I'll become a master as powerful as Daddy. That's a big ambition." "You'll have to work hard," Wang Ting said as he ruffled her little head and chuckled. "I will," Little Chinga said firmly, clenching her fist with determination. Wang Ting smiled and then activated his real eye to examine Little Chinga's body. He wanted to know what was wrong with Little Chinga. What he saw made him slightly surprised, even more so than he expected. Little Chinga harbored a tremendously potent energy deep within her body, quietly lurking but exceptionally peculiar and powerful. It even carried an unusual chill. It seemed that Little Chinga's body was weakened due to her inability to handle this energy. Cloud serpent grass, with its mild properties, enhances the physique of snake-like creatures. Since the snake men are considered snake-like creatures, gradually strengthening Chinga's physique with the medicinal power of cloud serpent grass to counterbalance that overpowering energy doesn't seem like a bad idea. Wang Ting contemplated. However, he was unsure about the nature of this energy. Wang Ting had some doubts but hesitated to ask. He thought for a moment and decided to use Zeli's prescription to make the medicine for little Chinga. With his expertise, crafting such a relatively simple medicine was a breeze, and he successfully produced it in no time, releasing a rich medicinal fragrance. "Daddy, the cloud serpent tablets you made today are much better than before," Little Chinga cried in surprise. Chapter 1921 Mysterious Snake Race Lady. Unusual Stone. 2. Little Chinga, who had spent years by Zeli's side, had a fair understanding of the field of medicine. Just by smelling the fragrance, she could tell that the quality of these pills was significantly better than before. "So, you see, my analysis and improvements are effective," Wang Ting said, patting her little head confidently. "Yes, Daddy, you're amazing." Chinga vigorously nodded and praised him with determination. Wang Teng felt that something was wrong. This young lady seemed to be comforting a child who needed compliments. Did she see her daddy as someone who needed to be praised from time to time? What a peculiar father-daughter relationship. Daddy, can I eat it now? Little Chinga's impatient voice brought Wang Teng back to reality. You can eat it now. Give it a try. Wang Teng poured out a small pill and passed it to little Chinga. He was confident that this small pill wouldn't cause any harm even if it was different from the ones made by Zelly. He even sensed that the pills he made were much better than Zelly's. Even though they were both spiritual pills, Wang Teng had managed to derive over 80% of their medicinal power. In contrast, Zelly's tablets had only around 50% to 60% of their power. In this regard, Wang Teng could only say one thing: trash. Little Chinga smelled the scented and potent pill, and without hesitation, she swallowed it. The pill dissolved instantly upon entering her mouth, turning into pure energy that flowed into her body. The gentle medicinal power began to soothe the dormant energy within her, gradually calming it down. Although this energy had remained dormant, even the slightest restlessness would cause discomfort in little Chinga's body. Therefore, she needed to take tablets regularly to balance it out. Yawn. After taking the pill, a warm current flowed through little Chinga's body, making her feel drowsy. She couldn't help but let out a yawn. Go to sleep now, Wang Teng said. All right, have an early rest too. Little Chinga waved her hand and went back to her room. By now, the night was deep, and after little Chinga fell asleep, Wang Teng quietly left their residence to investigate Landon's whereabouts. Following the space imprint's location, he arrived directly in the central area of Rui Snake City, not far from Zelly's residence. In the darkness, a massive castle-like palace stood in the shadows. This should be the palace of the snake race. Wang Teng hadn't expected the snake men to hold Landon here. This seemed like the perfect opportunity for him. He wondered if Landon would make a move tonight. There were many guards around the palace, and Wang Teng soon heard the sounds of snake men moving around. He activated the Dark Apparitions battle technique, shadow merging secret skill, and merged into the darkness in the corner. A group of guards passed not far from him, but they didn't notice his presence at all. Wang Teng smiled faintly. His whole being was like a shadow in the night. He continued to move deeper into the palace. After about 10 minutes, Wang Teng had passed through multiple layers of guards within the palace and reached an area outside a dungeon. The security around this dungeon was even tighter, with guards stationed everywhere. This was likely where Landon was being held. Wang Teng considered his options and took advantage of a shift change among the guards. He silently slipped into the dungeon from the shadows. The dungeon was damp and dimly lit, giving it a sinister atmosphere. But it was also conducive to Wang Teng's movements. He completely blended into the shadows, and none of the prisoners or guards inside the dungeon noticed his presence. I've finally found you. Soon, Wang Teng located Landon. Landon sat cross-legged in a corner, his hands and feet shackled. However, he appeared surprisingly calm, seemingly unfazed by his predicament. But at that moment, he abruptly opened his eyes and frowned, looking toward a certain shadowy area as if he sensed being watched. He didn't notice anything, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. After glancing around and confirming that there was no one there, he closed his eyes again. Phew. Wang Teng breathed a sigh of relief. This guy is quite sharp. The main thing was, they were too close. If they were a small further away, he wouldn't be able to feel his gaze. Will he notice you? Round Ball asked worriedly. It's impossible. My concealment techniques have never been detected, Wang Teng stated confidently. Not only did he use the shadow merging secret skill, but he also executed the advanced stage disguise talent. How could he be discovered? Round Ball, seeing his confidence, didn't press the issue further and changed the topic. What does Landon want to do, anyway? I don't know, which is why I need to keep an eye on him, Wang Teng replied. But he really can keep his cool. This guy has a strong mentality. This guy is indeed not simple. If it weren't for you keeping an eye on him this time, I wouldn't have noticed how well he's hidden, Round Ball remarked. Wang Teng didn't say much more. He didn't deliberately keep a watchful eye on Landon but concealed himself within the shadows, waiting for Landon's next move. Unfortunately, Landon showed no intention of leaving throughout the night. As dawn approached, Wang Ting had to retreat and return to Zeli's residence. As for Zhigu, who was going to serve the queen, Wang Ting didn't go and watch him. Queen Ruelan was at the peak of the heaven stage. If he were to be discovered, it would be a disaster. Chapter 1922 Mysterious Snake Race Lady. Unusual Stone. 3. Returning to the residence, Wang Ting began preparing breakfast for little Chinga, using the same level of skill as yesterday as she seemed to have accepted it. However, when he finished making breakfast, the young girl showed no signs of waking up. He felt speechless. Wang Ting felt like he had become a nanny. His undercover plan seemed to be going increasingly awry. Shaking his head, Wang Ting walked straight into little Chinga's room. She was just a young girl, not yet grown up, so there weren't too many concerns. But the reality still made him feel somewhat embarrassed. On the bed lay a petite, beautiful snake girl, covered by a thin sheet that seemed like shawl. She was only wearing a simple bandeau on her upper body. At such a young age, her delicate and charming face possessed a unique allure. "I'm sorry." Wang Ting quickly retreated from the room, primarily because the other party was too young, and he felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. Fortunately, no one else saw it, or he would have had a hard time explaining. "Wang Ting, you're done for." "I saw it." Round Ball chuckled softly. Wang Ting's face turned black. "Come on, tell me how you plan to keep me quiet." Round Ball grinned mischievously. "I'm thinking of killing you to silence you." "Dead people don't talk," Wang Ting said expressionlessly. "I didn't see anything. I just wanted to scare you," Round Ball said sheepishly. "If I catch you saying even a word about this, Wang Ting threatened. I won't dare. Round Ball quickly reassured. "You better not. Leave now." Wang Ting huffed. "Yes." Round Ball promptly disappeared. This was horrifying. Time to leave. Wang Ting decided to ignore Round Ball. He took a deep breath and closed the door carefully. Then, he knocked on the door, woke little Chinga up, and had her come out for breakfast. He was now playing the role of a loving father, and the earlier incident was just an accident. On this day, Wang Ting didn't go anywhere. After feeding little Chinga, he spent his time in Zeli's clinic, treating patients and tending to injuries. Besides collecting herbs, Zeli's daily routine consisted of treating patients in his clinic, which was his source of income. 3 days flew by. During this time, Wang Ting and little Chinga got along very well. Although there were occasional moments when he showed differences from the real Zeli, it didn't raise any suspicions. Overall, his disguise was holding up well. The fact that he closely resembled Zeli made it hard for anyone to suspect him. Finding an identical person in the same city was nearly impossible. As for Landon, there were still no signs of any activity from him. He remained confined in the cell, seemingly waiting for something. This evening, Wang Ting couldn't leave Zeli's residence because, according to Zeli, it was the night of little Chinga's energy outbreak. Her master would appear to help her stabilize her internal energy. Wang Ting was curious about this. He discovered it intriguing that little Chinga had a master who would come periodically to help her with her internal energy. It seemed like something straight out of a protagonist's storyline. However, Wang Ting was somewhat hesitant about the true strength of little Chinga's master. If the master were only a Cosmos stage martial warrior, he would have to consider whether the master had the capability to assist little Chinga or if the person was just a charlatan. If not, why hadn't little Chinga's problem been solved after so many years? As he was contemplating about this, a graceful figure suddenly and unexpectedly appeared in the courtyard, catching Wang Ting off guard. It was a snake lady wearing a veil. She was dressed simply and elegantly with minimal adornments. She wore a single emerald green hairpin, shaped like a snake, nestled in her dark hair. Dressed in a simple blue gown, her figure was tantalizingly enigmatic, captivating to perfection. She seemed even more stunning than any snake woman Wang Ting had ever seen before. Despite the veil, it was impossible not to imagine that her appearance beneath it was nothing short of breathtaking. Her cheeks were concealed by the veil, revealing only a smooth forehead and a pair of uniquely dazzling eyes. When Wang Ting locked eyes with her, his heart skipped a beat. What kind of eyes were those? Enchanting. Mesmerizing. Those were the only words that came to Wang Ting's mind as he tried to describe them. Her gaze possessed an inexplicable allure, rendering anyone who looked into them almost unable to break free. Fortunately, Wang Ting had encountered numerous beautiful women, and he had remarkable self-control. He quickly regained his composure. A strange look appeared in the lady's eyes. In the past, Zeli didn't dare to look at her directly, but today, he did. Though he promptly averted his gaze, she couldn't help but sense something unusual. However, after taking a closer look at Wang Ting, she didn't find anything out of the ordinary and decided not to dwell on it, contemplating that their familiarity from previous encounters might have led to his slightly bolder behavior today. Wang Ting silently activated his real eye and took a closer look at the woman. Heaven stage. He experienced a tinge of surprise, though not shock. He predicted that little Chinga's master wouldn't be weaker than a Cosmos stage martial warrior. Zeli was a Cosmos stage martial warrior. Therefore, it created sense that her master would either be at the Cosmos stage or the Heaven stage. If it was a Universe stage martial warrior, he might be shocked. Chapter 1923 Mysterious Snake Race Lady. Unusual Stone. 4. A Heaven stage martial warrior was within his expectations. However, there were only a few Heaven stage martial warriors in the city. There didn't appear to be anyone matching her here. Could this woman be from another Snakemen tribe? On this planet, apart from the Rui snake tribe, there are several other Snakemen tribes scattered around. Although they have some interaction, they don't have frequent contact. Lord Tsangyu, please come in. Wang Ting made a welcoming gesture and led the way. He had already learned the name of this woman from Zeli, so he had no trouble addressing her. Upon hearing the commotion outside, little Chinga rushed out of the house and pounced on the lady in green. Master, you're finally here. When Lord Tsangyu appeared, she had an aura that made it difficult for people to approach. But now, seeing Lord Tsangyu, her eyes seemed to soften slightly as she reached out to take her. Little Chinga, how have you been recently? Master, I'm much better now. The pills my father made for me have been very effective, little Chinga said, snuggling in Lord Kangya's arms and not forgetting to praise her father. Is that so? Lord Tsangyu glanced at Wang Ting in surprise. She knew that Zeli was a master-level alchemist, and advancing further from that level was no easy feat. It seems that Zeli's prowess hasn't reached its peak yet. It's just luck, Wang Ting said, pretending to be modest while wearing Zeli's appearance. Follow me. I've found a place that might allow little Chinga's energy to merge with her body. Lord Tsangyu altered the subject without asking too many questions. Really? Wang Ting was shocked in his heart but appeared pleasantly surprised on the surface, looking like a father who had just learned that his daughter's illness could be cured. In reality, he was quite surprised because Tsangyu had always appeared at home to help relieve the energy within little Chinga. This was the first time they were going out together. Yes. Lord Tsangyu nodded and floated away while carrying little Chinga without any intention of explaining anything to Wang Ting. It seemed that if Zeli weren't little Chinga's father, she wouldn't even give him any attention. Now that Wang Ting was adopting Zeli's appearance, Kangyu wouldn't view him differently either. Wang Teng's gaze flickered, and he grabbed off, quickly following behind. Lord Tsangyu waved her hand gracefully and a veil of energy enveloped Wang Teng, helping him conceal his presence. Wang Teng permitted her to do as she pleased and silently followed her out of Rui Snake City. As a Heaven Stage martial warrior, it was challenging for others to detect her presence if she wanted to hide, especially in a city where the strongest individuals were only at the Heaven Stage. As long as they didn't come into direct confrontation, there shouldn't be a problem. After leaving Rui Snake City, the three of them headed east towards the rainforest. The night passed quickly, and little Chinga slept peacefully in Lord Kangya's arms for half the night. When she woke up, they were still on the road. By this time, they had already crossed the jungle and entered a desert. Master, where are we going? Little Chinga rubbed her eyes, peeking her head out of Lord Kangya's embrace and looking around curiously. We'll be there soon, Lord Tsangyu smiled faintly and replied. Wang Teng was also curious about where they were going, but since Lord Sangyu didn't say anything, he naturally didn't want to inquire too many questions. The two of them moved at a brisk pace and quickly entered the depths of the desert, eventually landing in a pile of rubble. This pile of rubble sat amid the desert, resembling an ancient relic. But it was in a state of disrepair, with only several large stones scattered haphazardly in the sand. What is this place? Wang Ting looked around, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. He activated his real eye and noticed something unusual. Lord Sangyu walked toward the pile of rubble and unexpectedly arrived at the side of a dried-up well. She explained, "I stumbled upon this place. Beneath it lies a passage to the underground magma, where an unusual stone is incubated. It might be helpful for little Chinga." An unusual stone. Wang Teng's eyes flickered. That explained the sudden sensation of intense heat he had felt earlier. Chapter 1924 Attack. Python Patterned Purple Jade. 1. In the desert, within the pile of rubble that had existed for who knows how many years, was a dried-up well. At first glance, the well appeared to be just an ordinary dried-up well, devoid of any water. However, to Wang Teng and Lord Sangyu, this well was far from ordinary. After Lord Sangyu had finished explaining, she cast a careful glance at Wang Teng, and a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Little Chinga might not have noticed, but Lord Sangyu felt that this Zeli seemed somewhat different. Was it her imagination? Or had Zeli been concealing his true strength, something she hadn't noticed before? Wang Teng, sensing Lord Sangyu observing him, immediately put on an innocent and harmless smile, appearing like a simple and honest person. "Follow me." Lord Sangyu had already turned back. She leaped into the well with little Chinga. Wang Teng's eyes flickered for a moment, and he followed suit, jumping into the well. This dried-up well was surprisingly deep. From the outside, it appeared to be only a few meters deep, but Wang Teng fell for thousands of feet and still hadn't reached the bottom. He noticed peculiar reddish patterns appearing on the surrounding rock walls. To Wang Teng's discerning eye, these patterns seemed like naturally formed runic formations, creating a kind of seal that isolated everything below, making them completely invisible. Suddenly, Wang Ting felt a bright light in front of him, and his entire field of vision was replaced by a crimson hue. The space below also abruptly widened, and the force within Wang Ting surged, allowing him to float in midair. Lord Sangyu held Xiao Qing, floating not far away from him. Wang Ting looked around. It appeared to be an underground cavern. Beneath him was an open space, and directly in front of him, there was a passage from which the crimson light emanated. Along with the light came an intense heat, causing the temperature in this underground cavern to rise sharply. The air was filled with a strong presence of constellation fire force. Wang Ting didn't even need to sense it. He could tell just by looking at the attribute bubbles floating on the ground. He immediately collected them up. Constellation force, fire, *300 constellation force, fire, *280 constellation force, fire, *350. A large number of attribute bubbles merged into Wang Teng's body, transforming into a pure stream of constellation fire force that surged into his inner cosmos. Wang Teng's constellation fire force didn't have a breakthrough, but it improved significantly. At this moment, Lord Sangyu had already flown towards the passage, and Wang Teng naturally followed suit. The passage was quite long and inclined downward. Wang Teng could feel himself descending. At the same time, the temperature around them continued to rise steadily. Wang Teng raised an eyebrow. The temperature wasn't much of a concern for him, but for Zeli, it might be unbearable. So, he was considering how far he should go. Never mind, he should at least put on an act. He immediately feigned that he couldn't withstand the high heat. Lord Sangyu furrowed her brow, seemingly finding him a bit useless. But she didn't say anything and simply waved her hand, adding an extra layer of protection to shield him from the surrounding temperature. Wang Teng gave her a grateful look in response. After a while, the strong crimson light in front of them suddenly became overwhelmingly bright. Wang Teng got excited. He followed Lord Sangyu closely, charging out. Beyond the passage, an enormous space seemed before their eyes, dominated by shades of fiery red. It was magnificent. Even for Wang Teng, upon seeing this scene, he couldn't help but be amazed. It was an endless pool of magma, with molten rock of fiery red flowing slowly within. Large bubbles periodically emerged, followed by explosive bursts, causing the magma to splatter in all directions. Numerous attribute bubbles hovered on the surface of the magma pool. As the bubbles burst, even more attribute bubbles emerged. Wang Teng's eyes lit up, and he immediately started collecting them. Constellation Force, Fire, *500 Constellation Force, Fire, *380 Constellation Force, Earth, *500. The attribute bubbles here were much more abundant than before, and Wang Teng immediately felt a surge of immensely powerful constellation fire force within him. Boom! An explosion occurred in his body. He achieved a breakthrough. Constellation Force, 4th level Cosmos stage. Wang Teng was elated. He didn't expect this gain. He glanced at the attributes board. Constellation Fire Force, 26500 40,000, Cosmos stage 4th level. His constellation fire force rose by a level and reached the mid-stage of the 4th level Cosmos stage. Wang Teng believed he wouldn't be long before breaking through to the 5th level. While he was delighted inside, he maintained a calm exterior, appearing genuinely curious as he asked, "Lord Tsangyu, where is this odd stone you mentioned?" "It's beneath the magma," Lord Tsangyu replied. "Under the magma?" Wang Teng feigned surprise. "Can you endure the temperature of the magma?" Lord Tsangyu asked. "Daddy, if it's too much, you can wait for us outside," little Chinga said. She looked at the magma pool and started to worry for her father. "It's fine. I'll go in with you." "How can I let you go alone, my dear?" Wang Teng said determinedly. "Daddy." Little Chinga was deeply moved. "All right, since we're going down, let's go together." Lord Tsangyu interrupted the heartfelt exchange between the father and daughter and plunged into the magma pool with little Chinga. Chapter 1925 Attack. Python Patterned Purple Jade. 2. Wang Teng enveloped his body with a layer of force shield and jumped into the magma pool with the Kangyu. The temperature of this magma pool was very high, significantly hotter than typical magma. Wang Teng could only put on a pretense of struggling as he followed Lord Tsangyu, descending deeper into the magma pool. He suddenly remembered the situation when he was in the flaming river world. The magma in that small world was not as terrifying as it was here. The temperature of this magma seemed unusually high. The flaming river universe lord was a fire element martial warrior. The small world in his body was made up of fire elements. By right, the magma within that small world should have been far hotter than ordinary magma. Furthermore, that magma had various hidden currents and even strange creatures like the red phosphorus worm. It was undoubtedly dangerous. Now, the temperature of the magma pool they had entered seemed to surpass the magma in the flaming river world. This was unbelievable. "Lord Tsangyu, are there any other dangers here?" Wang Teng couldn't help but ask. "When I came here last time, I didn't encounter any other dangers. It's just that the temperature here is indeed quite high," Lord Tsangyu replied with a hint of surprise in her eyes, not expecting him to ask. Wang Teng nodded without further inquiry. The three of them descended for several minutes and still hadn't reached the bottom. Reddish magma flowed around them, occasionally producing attribute bubbles. Wang Teng immediately extended his spiritual power to collect them. These attribute bubbles were all constellation fire force. Wang Teng's constellation fire force rose silently. He was elated. Kangyu wasn't far away, but she didn't know that Wang Teng wasn't afraid of the magma and could even raise his ability here. "Be careful, there's an undercurrent ahead." Lord Tsangyu suddenly spoke up, giving a warning. Wang Teng immediately became vigilant, nodded in acknowledgement, and followed her, circumventing the undercurrent. Beneath this magma pool, there were indeed some perilous undercurrents, especially the vortex-shaped ones, which were quite terrifying. If an ordinary martial warrior was swept into them, his life would likely be in grave danger. Moreover, in such an environment, even for Cosmos stage martial warriors, if they lacked the means to resist the extreme temperatures, it was akin to dancing on the edge of a blade, with death imminent. Not long after, Wang Ting noticed that the color of the magma around them had changed. It shifted from the original fiery red to a darker red, and the temperature continued to rise. Lord Tsangyu, the temperature of this magma is becoming even more terrifying, Wang Ting said with a grave tone. I know. Lord Kangya's face also involuntarily showed a hint of solemnity as she nodded lightly. How much longer until we arrive? Wang Ting estimated the limit of a normal Cosmos stage martial warrior and felt that this was enough. He asked with perspiration on his forehead. The sweat on his forehead was forced out by himself. The temperature alone couldn't affect him. After all, the divine flames within him could be considered the king of all fires. Even if the temperature of this magma was higher, it couldn't possibly surpass the temperature of the divine flames. What's more, he had the nether frost and the hornless ice dragon pearl. We're almost there. Lord Tsangyu glanced at him somewhat helplessly and waved her fair and beautiful hand. She attached her force to Wang Ting's body, helping him withstand the surrounding magma temperature. Little Chinga gazed at Wang Ting worriedly. However, her complexion had turned extremely pale at some point, and her lips had a bluish tint, making her appear incredibly weak. Little Chinga, how are you feeling? Wang Teng's expression changed, and he quickly asked. Although he and this young girl were not related by blood, they had gotten along well these past few days, and he sensed a great deal of sympathy for her situation. Furthermore, he had borrowed Zelly's identity to infiltrate the Rui Snake City, so he naturally felt some responsibility to look out for her. He didn't want anything to happen to her during their journey or he would feel guilty. Daddy, I'm fine, Little Chinga gave a weak smile and reassured him. This is bad. The energy in Little Chinga's body is about to erupt. Lord Kangya's face changed slightly, and a hint of urgency eventually appeared in her calm voice. Hurry up, I'll try to keep up, Wang Ting uttered quickly. Lord Tsangyu gazed at him, nodded, and didn't say more. She suddenly accelerated her speed and rushed toward the bottom of the magma pool. Wang Ting's eyes flashed, and he also accelerated his speed slightly to keep up with Lord Tsangyu. He didn't use the light bolt or the space flash skill, but the speed of his body was comparable to a normal heaven stage martial warrior. Even though he was holding back a bit at the moment, he could still maintain a considerable distance behind her. Lord Tsangyu was somewhat surprised, but she didn't have the time to dwell on it. She continued to move stealthily while suppressing the energy within Little Chinga. Time passed, and the magma appeared to have no end. In this place, time had lost its meaning, and they had no idea how long they had been traveling. Little Chinga's complexion grew increasingly unsightly, and the energy within her had reached the brink of eruption. Even Lord Tsangyu was struggling to suppress it. Wang Teng, from a distance, could feel the mighty energy fluctuations emanating from Little Chinga's body. His eyebrows furrowed, and he was genuinely surprised. I didn't expect the energy released during this eruption to be so terrifying. This little girl is quite extraordinary, Round Ball chimed in, sounding genuinely astonished. Chapter 1926 Attack. Python patterned purple jade. 3. It had been quietly observing Little Chinga all along, but even with its extensive knowledge, it couldn't find any relevant records about this type of energy. What's more, they were in the world of erosion and couldn't connect to the internet. Hence, it couldn't search for more information. This left it feeling somewhat frustrated, not expecting there would be a day when it couldn't find information. Boom! Just at that moment, there was a sudden roar from ahead. A bone-chilling force swept through the scorching magma. The magma around them was pushed aside and flowed in all directions. At the same time, the magma in its path started to show signs of freezing. This was unbelievable. Mind you, after they had traveled to this point, the temperature of the magma had already increased several times, and yet it was still freezing under this extreme cold. Just how intense was this chilling power? It was almost unimaginable. Wang Teng's expression turned grim as he immediately looked ahead. He had already guessed what was happening, and now, seeing the situation in front of him, his suspicions were confirmed. The energy in Little Chinga's body finally erupted. Under the sweeping force of this chilling aura, Lord Tsangyu was pushed away, unable to approach. Little Chinga's petite body floated in the magma. An endless cold power erupted from within her. She had lost consciousness, but her expression was one of extreme pain. Unconscious screams escaped her mouth as if she couldn't bear the agony. Kang Yu continuously tried to approach little Qing, but perhaps because the energy had been suppressed for too long, it became even more terrifying when it erupted. Originally, this energy was supposed to explode during the night, but they had spent a lot of time searching for the strange stone, and Kang Yu had been suppressing the energy inside little Qing's body all this time, leading to this situation. However, the chilling power was something even a heaven-stage martial warrior like Kang Yu found it difficult to approach. The chilling power could even freeze her force. This magma environment was already extremely dangerous. If her force was frozen, it would be akin to courting death. Boom! At this very moment, a figure suddenly surged forth from not far away, breaking through the dense crimson magma with astounding speed. Even the freezing power that had left Kang Yu helpless couldn't stop this figure's advance. A look of astonishment crossed Kang Yu's perfectly sculpted face. It seemed as though she was reluctantly accepting the unbelievable scene before her. This figure managed to effortlessly pierce through the magma and the chilling forces, appearing next to little Qing with an indomitable momentum. What truly astonished Werqi was that this figure was none other than little Qing's father, Zeli, the man she had never held in high regard. How was this possible? Be careful. Werqi witnessed Zeli reaching out to embrace little Qing. Her expression changed uncontrollably and she shouted to remind him. However, boom. The next moment, a strange azure fire exploded from Zeli's body, swirling around him like a spirit serpent, and instantly congealed into a layer of flame veil. He then reached out and embraced little Qing as if he were holding a sleeping princess. The relentless cold power continuously erupting from little Qing's body couldn't even break through the layer of fire veil, and it didn't damage Zeli himself. Lead the way. Wang Ting turned his head slightly, looking at Kang Yu, and calmly spoke. Behind the veil, Kang Yu opened her mouth as if she wanted to ask something but ultimately didn't. She transformed into a blur and rushed forward. She had seen Wang Ting's speed just now and knew he was holding back. Thus, at this moment, she had no reservations. However, in her heart, the Zeli that Wang Ting was impersonating had suddenly become mysterious. Wang Ting didn't pay attention to her thoughts. Since he chose to reveal his true power, he was prepared for it. He followed behind Kang Yu, swiftly rushing into the magma ahead. He even used his light bolt skill, turning into a streak of light within the magma. Kang Yu turned around and her pupils constricted. Who was this? Why did he possess such unique combat skills? Was he really little Qing's father? Or did little Qing's father have a special identity? Countless queries flashed through Kang Yu's mind, and she was thoroughly confused, unable to figure out Wang Ting's true identity. Before long, the temperature ahead suddenly skyrocketed several times, significantly different from before. While they were descending, the temperature had been gradually increasing, but now it had suddenly surged. Kang Yu was prepared for this and wasn't too surprised. However, Zeli, who didn't know about the anomaly here, remained completely unaffected, which astonished her. As the temperature sharply rose, the surrounding magma also turned into a deep color close to dark purple. This is it. Kang Yu opened her mouth. Wang Ting looked ahead and saw a massive dark purple jade stone embedded in the magma riverbed below, resembling a dark purple jade bed. The surrounding magma formed dark currents, encircling the dark purple jade stone as if guarding it. When these dark currents rotated, they transformed into the shapes of purple serpents, appearing like tangible beings. It was a mystical sight. This is. Wang Teng's eyes burst with brilliance as if he recognized this object. Python-patterned purple jade. Round Ball's astounded voice was heard simultaneously. Python-patterned purple jade. It was an extremely special material that could only condense over tens of millions of years in scorching hot areas, making it exceptionally rare. This jade bore patterns resembling those of serpents, said to be formed by the unique and powerful bloodlines of serpent-like star beasts intermingling with the intense heat, undergoing a bizarre transformation. Cultivating atop this jade could enhance one's physical strength. Moreover, for snake-like star beasts, It was extremely beneficial, aiding in their physical transformation and evolution, allowing them to transcend from serpents to dragon. Chapter 1927 Primordial Oceanic Serpent 1. Kang Yu was surprised when she saw Wang Teng's reaction. She asked, "Do you know this jade?" I know a little." Wang Teng coughed awkwardly. The astonishment in Kang Yu's eyes got thicker. How could Zeli know something she didn't? Her curiosity about Wang Teng's identity deepened. However, she refrained from asking more questions for now, deciding to address little Chinga's issue first. She assumed a listening posture, indicating her willingness to hear more. "This jade is called python-patterned purple jade," Wang Teng briefly explained. Examining the dark purple jade, a hint of curiosity flashed in Kang Yu's eyes again. She acknowledged and said, "It aligns with my speculation. This jade should be able to suppress the energy eruption within little Chinga, allowing her to fully merge with it. However, this process probably won't be completed in a day. How do you plan to proceed?" Wang Teng asked. "Place her on that python-patterned purple jade. Leave the rest to me," Kang Yu replied. Wang Teng nodded. He moved his body and arrived above the python-patterned purple jade. Roar. The giant serpents formed by the surrounding magma streams roared and charged at Wang Teng as if they were living creatures. "Me." Wang Teng snorted coldly. He flipped his palm and the green flames coalesced into a giant dragon, its tail swinging vigorously. Bang! With a crisp sound, the magma serpent formations were completely shattered, offering no resistance. These magma serpents were merely influenced by the python-patterned purple jade, and while they had some attacking power, it was quite limited. For normal martial warriors, dealing with them might have been troublesome. But, for Wang Teng, they posed no real threat. After dispersing the magma serpents, Wang Teng quickly arrived at the side of the python-patterned purple jade. He gently placed little Chinga on top, letting her lie horizontally. As soon as he laid her down, a trace of joy appeared on Wang Teng's face. "It works." The energy erupting from little Chinga's body showed signs of being suppressed. Although it was still bursting forth, it no longer intensified. At this moment, a fragrant breeze wafted into Wang Teng's nostrils. With a swift movement, Tsangyu appeared by his side. This was the first time that Wang Ting had been so close to the snakewoman since they met. His heart inexplicably skipped a beat. The scent emanating from her body seemed to be a natural fragrance, enticing and pleasant. It carried a subtle allure. It was not something she intentionally emitted but rather a natural trait. Earlier, she had kept a certain distance from Wang Ting, probably assuming that he couldn't resist this allure. However, now that Wang Ting's true strength was revealed, she seemed to acknowledge it. At this moment, her focus was on little Chinga's situation, and she had no time to pay attention to these details. A sharp glint flashed past Wang Teng's eyes. His gaze was clear and he wasn't affected by the fragrance. However, he was surprised. Who was this snake lady? It was amusing how both of them were secretly speculating about each other's identities. At this moment, Tsangyu paid no attention to Wang Teng. Her expression turned solemn as she extended her hand. Threads of force emanated from her body, touching various parts of little Chinga. Under the stimulation of the chilling power within little Chinga's body, the power of the python-patterned purple jade seemed to be activated. Waves of dark purple light burst forth, accompanied by a scorching heat. The various serpent patterns on the python-patterned purple jade suddenly came to life, transforming into phantom serpents. Wang Teng's expression tensed, thinking that the python-patterned purple jade might cause trouble again. He was ready to suppress it if necessary. However, the expected eruption didn't occur. Instead, the phantom serpent images surrounded little Chinga's body, and faint red light emanated from the serpent patterns, entering little Chinga's body. "That's bloodline power." Wang Teng's eyes widened in astonishment. "It seems to be the bloodline power of some exotic serpent. I didn't expect little Chinga's energy inside her to trigger this bloodline power and absorb it," Round Ball exclaimed in surprise. "It looks like this python-patterned purple jade is truly a blessing for her," Wang Ting stated with some delight. Since she could absorb this bloodline power, it indicated that the python-patterned purple jade was indeed beneficial for little Chinga. Tsangyu also noticed this and revealed a trace of delight on her face. She continued to channel her force towards little Chinga's body. The chilling power gradually got controlled. It stopped erupting. Wang Ting noticed this and breathed a sigh of relief. He remained suspended in the magma, scanning the numerous attribute bubbles floating around him. Earlier, he had noticed a large number of them around the python-patterned purple jade, but he hadn't had the chance to care about them. Now, he didn't want to miss any. Get them. He released his spiritual power and collected all the attribute bubbles. Constellation Force, Fire, *1000 Constellation Force, Fire, *850 Exotic Serpent Bloodline *500 Constellation Force, Fire, *1200 Constellation Force, Fire, *1600 Exotic Serpent Bloodline *650. As the attribute bubbles merged into his body, Wang Teng's eyes lit up. It seemed like there was something extraordinary mixed within these attribute bubbles. Before he could contemplate this further, a peculiar force infiltrated his body, coursing through his limbs and every part of his being. Wang Teng suddenly felt as if his entire body was rejoicing. Every piece of flesh, every bone, and even every individual cell seemed to come alive, actively absorbing the bloodline power of the exotic serpent. Chapter 1928 Primordial Oceanic Serpent 2. No way, can I absorb the exotic serpent bloodline too? Wang Teng was bewildered. The bloodline power of the exotic serpent within the python-patterned purple jade could be absorbed by serpent-like beings, assisting in their transformation into more powerful creatures. It was indeed quite extraordinary. However, for ordinary martial warriors, this might not necessarily be the case. What if he turned into something neither human nor serpent? That would be a disaster. At this thought, Wang Teng suddenly shivered. However, at this moment, he suddenly realized that his true dragon battle physique, Pseudo, had activated on its own. Strange bloodline power flowed within him, eventually being absorbed by the true dragon battle physique, Pseudo, serving as material for its transformation. Wang Teng couldn't help but look at the attributes board. He was in disbelief. The true dragon battle physique, Pseudo, attribute was rising rapidly. You can do that. Wang Teng felt the change in his body. He opened his mouth but he didn't know how to describe his emotions. The power of the bloodline could help to improve his true dragon battle physique, Pseudo. Are you sure that it's the exotic serpent bloodline and not some real dragon bloodline? This exotic serpent bloodline is quite impressive. At this moment, Wang Teng had absorbed all the attribute bubbles from the exotic serpent bloodline, nurturing his physical body and elevating his true dragon battle physique, Pseudo, to a certain degree. True dragon battle physique, Pseudo 135000 40,000, 4th rank, it increased by more than 10,000 point. Wang Teng was elated. Wang Teng felt pleasantly surprised. He hadn't expected that the exotic serpent bloodline could boost his attributes by such a significant amount. He couldn't help but stroke his chin, and a flash of insight crossed his mind as if he had understood something. The true dragon battle physique, Pseudo, was just a pseudo version of the true dragon battle physique, while the exotic serpent bloodline, after undergoing certain transformations within the python-patterned purple jade, could enable serpent-like star beasts to transform into dragon-like creatures. This might explain why it could enhance the true dragon battle physique, Pseudo. Wang Teng felt that his educated guess was quite reasonable. This explanation seemed impeccable. Furthermore, aside from the exotic serpent bloodline's attribute bubbles, the rest of the bubbles contained the constellation fire force. The constellation fire force merged into Wang Teng's inner cosmos, raising his constellation fire force to another level. Cosmos stage 5th level. Constellation Fire Force, 1450 50,000, Cosmos Stage 5th level. Wang Teng felt that he was lucky. His Constellation Fire Force reached the 5th level so easily. Now, it was on par with his Constellation Poison Force. Considering how recently he had broken through to the Cosmos stage, reaching the 5th level was quite a remarkable feat. His progress seemed to far surpass the talented martial warriors of the Stellar Academies. It seems like going out for cultivation accelerates improvement. Wang Teng couldn't help but smile to himself. As time passed, 3 days went by in the blink of an eye. With more and more exotic serpent bloodline power being absorbed by little Chinga, her energy gradually stabilized. It was no longer as violent and began to calm down, integrating into her physical body. Is it starting to be absorbed? Wang Teng's eyes flashed with curiosity as he muttered to himself. Kang Yu appeared by Wang Teng's side and said, "Now, it's up to her." "Thank you," Wang Teng said. "I'm her master," Kang Yu responded calmly. Wang Teng smiled and kept quiet. "Who are you really?" Kang Yu asked after a brief silence. "I am just little Chinga's father, an ordinary member of the Snake Men," Wang Teng responded calmly. Kang Yu offered Wang Teng a skeptical look, clearly not believing his words. Could an ordinary snake man possess such peculiar battle techniques? Could an ordinary snake man wield that strange green flame? Could an ordinary snake man engage in casual conversation with a heaven stage martial warrior like her under this magma? "Do you think he'll believe you?" Neither of them spoke any further. Their gazes fixed on little Chinga ahead. Wang Teng activated his real eye and focused on the current condition inside little Chinga's body. Threads of the exotic serpent bloodline strength continued to thrust into little Chinga's body, enhancing her physique and seemingly causing some kind of peculiar transformation. Meanwhile, the chilling strength within little Chinga's body was also undergoing a change, merging with the serpent bloodline power and integrating into her bodily form. At a certain moment, little Chinga's body abruptly emitted a radiant light of green and purple intermingled. Wang Teng and Kang Yu couldn't help but exchange a glance, both sensing something extraordinary. "Do you have any idea what's happening?" Wang Teng asked. Where Yu furrowed her brows, seemingly deep in thought, before finally saying, "This should be a bloodline transformation unique to our snake men." "Bloodline transformation?" Wang Ting muttered to himself, thinking of the role of the python-patterned purple jade, transforming a snake into a dragon. Could it be that little Ching was using the python-patterned purple jade to transform into a dragon girl? The dragon race. It sounded strange. Were there such races in the universe? Although there are races like the solar dragon race with the solar dragon bloodline, Wang Teng has never heard of a dragon race before. The energy within little Chinga's body should be a certain bloodline strength of our snake men. Originally, this power was too overwhelming, exceeding what little Chinga herself could bear. Without someone controlling it, it could cause her to perish before she matures. However, with the python-patterned purple jade, the bloodline power within it can enhance little Chinga's physique and complete the final transformation of her bloodline, explained Kang Yu. Chapter 1929 Primordial Oceanic Serpent 3. If she succeeds, little Chinga will have unlimited potential in the future. Wang Teng was surprised. For him to be able to say this sentence proved how frightening the energy within little Chinga was. This was an innate talent. Most people could only envy. If she can succeed, she may surpass me in the future, Kang Yu nodded. A sharp glint flashed past her beautiful eyes. Wang Teng glanced at her in surprise. Wang Teng looked at her in surprise. In his opinion, this snake woman might seem nonchalant on the surface, but she was probably quite proud deep down. He didn't expect her to admit that little Chinga might surpass her in the future. "No need to look at me like that. The reason I took little Chinga as my disciple is that I think that she has the most ancient bloodline of our snake men within her," Kang Yu explained calmly. The most ancient bloodline. Wang Teng was momentarily taken aback. "What is that?" "I don't know," Kang Yu replied. Wang Teng, he thought that there would be some secrets, but this was it. "Why are you talking if you don't know?" Wang Teng was speechless. "We snake men lived on the Scorpion King star and have been oppressed by those extraterrestrial human races severely. We need a strong leader to lead us out of this planet, or even out of this world," Kang Yu said, her eyes gleaming with a strange light. Wang Teng was stunned. He didn't expect that what Kang Yu had in mind was to leave this planet and even this entire world. This was beyond his expectations. "Do you know what this world is all about?" After a moment of silence, Wang Teng couldn't help but ask. He didn't want to disillusion her, but he couldn't help but wonder how she would react if she found out that this world was nothing more than a small world left behind by a powerful being. Kang Yu looked at Wang Ting in surprise, not expecting him to ask such a question. Normally, such a question meant that the other party knew something. I've read records before, and it appears that our world was created by our ancestors. Unfortunately, since the fall of our ancestors, we haven't given birth to any powerful beings capable of breaking free from and leaving this world. Later, our world was invaded by those extraterrestrial human races, Kang Yu said slowly. Our ancestor. Wang Ting speculated that the ancestors mentioned by Kang Yu were likely the creator of this poison erosion world. Could she be a powerful warrior from the Snake Men tribe? In general, Kang Yu knew quite a bit, but her knowledge was limited. This realm was a small world, and to break free from it, they would need the power of a universe-stage martial warrior at the very least. But what would happen once they left? They would be chased by the formidable warriors from the academies. At the moment, Wang Teng didn't understand the Stellar Academy's attitude towards those trying to leave this world. Would they directly eliminate them or take them in for training? Given the hostility and hatred that the natives of this world had towards outsiders, it was difficult to predict. How do you view this matter? Kang Yu suddenly asked. What matter? Wang Teng asked in return. Do you believe we can leave this world? Kang Yu asked. If the extraterrestrial humans can come in and they are all powerful, even if we leave, what's the point? Can we avoid their obstruction? Wang Teng almost broke into a cold sweat on his forehead. He had almost said you all, but fortunately, he corrected himself quickly. Even if we surpass the heaven stage, it's still impossible. Kang Yu showed a trace of desolation as she murmured, almost as if questioning herself. Wang Teng couldn't help but sympathize with them. Being trapped in this realm would be one thing. If they didn't understand that there was a wider world outside, they could still live happily here. However, since they knew about it, how could they be content? Moreover, these extraterrestrial humans appeared from time to time, and they didn't seem very friendly to the inhabitants of this poison erosion world. For the people of this world, it was indeed a pitiable situation. Have you ever abandoned this planet and visited other stars outside? Wang Teng asked. I have ventured out before, but the strongest beings on other planets were on par with my current strength. No universe-stage martial warriors have ever appeared, Kang Yu replied. No universe-stage martial warriors? Wang Teng was puzzled. This poison erosion world was the size of a galaxy, with a high concentration of force power. There were many inhabited planets inside, and even legacies abandoned by powerful individuals. Yet, no universe-stage martial warriors had emerged. Was there a special reason for this? Our ancestors' legacies can reach universe stage, but we have all been unable to break through. Now I also feel that invisible barrier blocking me at the peak of the universe stage. It's hard to break through as if something is missing, Kang Yu pondered. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He thought of something. While the two were chatting, the purple light on little Chinga's body became more and more intense, almost enveloping her entirely. Boom! At this moment, an explosion came from within little Chinga. What happened? Both Wang Teng and Wei Yu were alarmed. Suddenly, little Chinga's body rose from the python-patterned purple jade, and a terrifying energy surged from within her. Why is this happening? Wang Teng's face filled with concern as he immediately asked. I don't know. Kang Yu's expression turned serious. She tried to rush forward to help little Chinga, but the overwhelming cold energy prevented her from getting closer. Why is this cold energy even more terrifying than before? Wang Teng's face grew grim. It should be the final eruption. The energy within her has become too powerful. When it erupts completely, the bloodline power of the python-patterned purple jade can no longer keep up, Kang Yu quickly explained. Chapter 1930 Primordial Oceanic Serpent. 4. Can you stop it? Wang Teng asked. Originally, the scorching heat of the python-patterned purple jade could suppress the cold power and allow little Chinga to absorb it slowly. But now, it seems that the scorching heat of the python-patterned purple jade can't hold it back anymore. Kang Yu's expression became extremely serious. Can the heat of this flame help? Wang Ting conjured a ball of green flames and held it in front of Kang Yu. It's even hotter than the temperature of the python-patterned purple jade. Earlier, I wanted to ask you what kind of flame this is since it can withstand the intense heat of the magma. Kang Yu was pleasantly surprised and asked urgently. In the magma, the temperature was extremely high all around, and Wang Ting had not fully unleashed the heat of the emerald-glazed flame, so she didn't know that the emerald-glazed flame's temperature could be so high. Moreover, in this world, it seemed that no one knew what a divine flame was. This is a divine flame. It's the hottest thing in the world, Wang Ting replied calmly. Divine flame. Kang Yu was astounded. Feeling the temperature of the green flames in Wang Ting's hand, she nodded and said, with such an intense heat, it should be able to resist the cold power inside little Chinga's body. Come with me, Wang Ting decisively said. I will use this fire to cover your body and push away the coldness so we can get closer to little Chinga. All right. Kang Yu didn't hesitate and nodded. Wang Ting immediately wrapped his arm around her waist, and the green flames spread, enveloping her body like a green veil. Kang Yu's body stiffened for a moment, and she almost slapped Wang Ting away, but she managed to hold back. Let's go. With a light shout, Wang Ting immediately led Kang Yu into the chilling power, heading towards little Chinga. Under the high temperature of the emerald-glazed flame, the cold power naturally couldn't harm them and was directly torn open. In the blink of an eye, Wang Ting and Kang Yu appeared next to little Chinga. What should we do? Wang Ting asked directly. You use this green flame to suppress the cold power, and I'll handle the rest, Kang Yu said in a cold voice. Wang Ting nodded, and his eyes flickered for a moment. He extended his palm and placed it on little Chinga's abdomen. The emerald-glazed flame surged out immediately. Under Wang Ting's control, the emerald-glazed flame entered little Chinga's body and began to compete with the cold power. For an ordinary person, letting the divine flame enter their body would be a sure death. However, the chilling power within little Chinga's body was intertwined with the scorching heat of the divine flame, preventing it from erupting fully. Moreover, with Wang Ting's control and his spiritual power, he ensured that the divine flame wouldn't harm little Chinga. The cold power, upon encountering the divine flame, retreated deep within little Chinga's body, showing extreme fear towards the divine flame like a mouse that had encountered a cat. Kang Yu was surprised that Wang Ting had managed to suppress the cold power so quickly. How did he do it? Could the divine flame be this extraordinary? It had swiftly suppressed even the terrifying and abnormal cold power. Without further thought, Kang Yu quickly took action. She put her palm on little Chinga just as she had done before. At this moment, Wang Ting's spiritual energy was inside little Chinga's body, so he immediately sensed an unusual power entering her body through her acupoints. This is bloodline power. She's using her own bloodline power to help little Chinga absorb the exotic serpent bloodline. Wang Ting suddenly realized he couldn't help but look at Kang Yu and noticed a slightly unusual paleness on her face, a sign of bloodline power consumption. Kang Yu had indeed sacrificed a great deal for little Chinga. Wang Ting felt a sense of admiration for Kang Yu's dedication to little Chinga. As Kang Yu's bloodline power merged into little Chinga's body, the cold power gradually subsided. Little Chinga's form gently descended onto the python-patterned purple jade, and the exotic serpent bloodline within it flowed into her body, completing the final fusion. Time passed once again, and 5 more days went by. With the combined efforts of Wang Ting and Kang Yu, the cold power did not erupt again and remained calm. More and more exotic serpent bloodline merged into little Chinga's body, causing her to undergo a transformation. When the last trace of cold power was successfully integrated, Wang Ting's heart stirred, and he looked at Kang Yu. Kang Yu nodded, and the two of them simultaneously stepped back. Boom! A deafening roar erupted from within little Chinga, but it wasn't the outbreak of the cold power. Instead, it was another powerful aura that burst forth from her, as if it had been suppressed for a very long time. The intense blue-purple light emanating from her had reached its limit, shining brilliantly and enveloping little Chinga. Boom! Suddenly, the blue-purple light shot up into the sky, piercing through layers of magma and even the Earth's crust, soaring toward the heavens. At this moment, it was already nighttime outside, pitch black all around. The column of blue-purple light formed by Little Chinga was exceptionally shining against the night sky. Little Chinga's form slowly rose, suspended within the blue-purple light. Her long black hair, which had been untouched by the wind, gradually transformed into the same blue-purple color, making her appear extremely noble and enchanting. Wang Teng's eyes were filled with wonder. But this wasn't the highly peculiar part. The truly amazing sight was about to unfold. Chapter 1931 Primordial Oceanic Serpent. 5. Behind Little Chinga, a blinding light condensed, and a terrifying blue-purple giant python shadow emerged. It stood at a towering 1,000 feet in height, coiling above her head, exuding an ancient and majestic aura. The vertical pupils of the giant python observed everything, cold and majestic. It was like a deity gazing upon all beings. Wang Ting's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but look at the giant python, examining it closely. Boom! A sense of ancient and profound power surged towards Wang Ting as if it came from the distant past. The giant python's gaze also seemed to fall upon Wang Ting, and they locked eyes for a moment. Wang Teng's expression shifted slightly. He couldn't hide any longer and released his full aura. His killing intent surged like a sharp blade. Boom! A thunderous sound echoed in the void. Wang Teng remained in place, but his complexion became slightly pale. In the clash of auras just now, he wasn't pushed back, but he didn't feel comfortable either. Without the 9 Treasures Pagoda's suppression, his spirit might have been affected. Kang Yu wasn't feeling well either. However, there was an excited expression on her beautiful face. Her captivating eyes seemed to emit endless radiance. Wang Ting, this seems to be a primordial oceanic serpent. Round Ball exclaimed in amazement. The primordial oceanic serpent. Wang Ting quickly searched through the Devour Nihility Beast's memory and found the relevant records. For a moment, he could hardly describe his emotions. It was magnificent. No words could describe it. Wang Ting was completely overwhelmed by the behemoth in the Devour Nihility Beast's memory. The primordial oceanic serpent was an equally terrifying universe behemoth. It had a massive body and was rumored that if it were to fully unleash its length, it could encircle an entire star system. Encompassing a star system with its body, what did that mean? It meant that with a single movement, countless planets would be annihilated and disappear. It didn't even need to resort to the use of the force attacks. Just the power of its physical body was enough to make the entire star system collapse. This was truly terrifying. The massive shadow of the giant python before him hadn't reached its full potential yet. It appeared to be only 1,000 feet in size. However, this wasn't because it was limited to this size. This was the extent to which Little Chinga could currently manifest it. This primordial oceanic serpent was extremely ancient and had only appeared in some rare records. Few had ever really seen the real primordial oceanic serpent. As the shadow of the primordial oceanic serpent appeared, bubbles with attributes started falling from it. Wang Ting was momentarily surprised, as he hadn't expected attribute bubbles to appear. I wonder what they could be, he thought, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Immediately, he extended his spiritual power to collect them. Primordial Oceanic Serpent Bloodline * 1000 Immortal Level Water Talent * 100 Immortal Level Ice Talent * 150 Immortal Level Poison Talent * 200 Ancient Primordial Oceanic Serpent Bloodline * 800 Primordial Consciousness * 1500 Primordial Consciousness * 1200 This. When the attribute bubbles merged into Wang Teng's body, he was stunned. Oh my god! Oh my god! He shouted in his mind as if these words were the only way to express his current feelings. Ancient Primordial Oceanic Serpent Bloodline. 3 Immortal Level Talents. And the Primordial Consciousness. Wang Teng didn't expect to receive such a harvest. He pondered the possibility that doing good deeds might bring unexpected rewards. If he hadn't helped Little Chinga, he wouldn't have activated the Primordial Oceanic Serpent's manifestation and obtained these attribute bubbles. It all seemed as though destiny. Wang Teng suddenly felt that he could do more good deeds in the future. However, amid these thoughts, he was too astonished by the changes happening to his body to give them much attention. Chapter 1932 Mysterious Bloodline. Narrow Path of Enemies. 1. Primordial Oceanic Serpent Bloodline. This was the bloodline possessed by Little Chinga. The bloodline power within the python-patterned purple jade could alter a python into a dragon, but Little Chinga had awakened her primordial oceanic serpent bloodline instead. Why did this happen? From a certain perspective, the primordial oceanic serpent was an even more powerful entity than a dragon. Its bloodline power was more esteemed and rare. Legend had it that the primordial oceanic serpent could rival a real dragon. Therefore, when the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent merged with Wang Teng's body, it didn't blend with the true dragon battle physique, pseudo, but became a separate and unique bloodline. The transformation was swift and ended quickly. Wang Teng now possessed an incredibly unique and powerful bloodline. He couldn't help but close his eyes to sense it fully. The feeling was amazing. When he activated this bloodline power, he could feel an incredible transformation. Opening his eyes, his pupils had turned into two deep azure vertical slits, as profound as the night sky but exuding an icy and overwhelming aura, making it impossible to look directly at them. Fortunately, at this moment, Kang Yu's attention was completely captivated by Little Chinga's transformation. Otherwise, if she had seen Wang Ting's change, she might have been frightened to the point of a heart attack. Wang Ting blinked, and the vertical slits disappeared. The faint and almost erupting aura also dissipated. Interesting. Wang Teng was extremely delighted. From the moment he merged with the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent, he had already understood the power of this bloodline. The primordial oceanic serpent could be said to be the top-tier serpent-like universe behemoth, possessing the most powerful serpent bloodline. Therefore, the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent could intimidate almost all serpent-like star beasts, making them submit. Furthermore, any serpent-like star beast bloodline weaker than it could be extracted and consumed as nourishment to make itself stronger. This was heaven-defying. In other words, the majority of the serpent-like star beasts in the universe could potentially become objects of plunder and consumption. This was the second ability. The third ability was that the primordial oceanic serpent bloodline could control serpent-like star beasts with bloodlines weaker than it through its vertical slits. Of course, if the opponent's strength was far superior, that would be another story and could lead to backlash. Intimidation, plunder, enslavement. These three abilities were the capabilities of the primordial oceanic serpent bloodline, which could be described as godlike. It was no wonder that its bloodline power was so formidable. If it weren't for his and Kang Yu's assistance, it would have been difficult for Little Chinga to awaken this bloodline. In fact, she might have died due to the backlash of the bloodline before even awakening it. Primordial Oceanic Serpent Bloodline, 1810,000, first rank. From the attributes board, it was clear that Wang Teng currently possessed only the first rank of this bloodline power, with significant room for improvement. However, even this first rank of power seems quite strong. He wondered how powerful it could ultimately become. He gazed around, but there were no serpent-like star beasts nearby to test his newfound abilities. Besides Kang Yu and Little Chinga. No. These two wouldn't do. He had to reluctantly give up the idea and set aside those thoughts. Then, Wang Ting turned his attention to the three attributes of immortal-level talents. 3 immortal-level talents. Wang Ting couldn't believe it. He had suddenly gained 3 divine-level talents, which was an incredible stroke of luck. Immortal-level water talent, 101,000,000 immortal-level ice talent, 151,000,000 immortal-level poison talent, 201,000,000. There seemed to be only one level between the divine level and the immortal level. But in reality, it was a qualitative leap. Immortal level. That had truly reached an unprecedented realm. Talents at this level were beyond comparison with ordinary talents. Wang Teng felt like he was undergoing a profound transformation. His entire being seemed to ascend, and every cell radiated a golden light. His talents had attained an unprecedented level of divinity, and he felt extraordinary. It was a feeling he couldn't place into words. He just sensed that he had transcended everything, becoming a being above all else. When talents attained a certain level, a person could no longer be called a mere human. They became a true monster. Many people had called Wang Ting a monster in the past, but he hadn't truly been one back then. Now, he could be considered one. Among these three immortal level talents, Wang Teng's original ice talent had only been at the imperial level. But now, it had directly ascended to the immortal level. The increase of 2 levels was even more intense. Ice and poison were both special attributes. It was hard to raise them normally. Now it had suddenly risen to the divine level, which was an incredible opportunity. Of course, it wasn't easy to raise his water talent to the immortal level either. Reaching the immortal level with any talent was an immeasurable stroke of luck, a gift from the heavens. As Wang Ting gazed at the attribute panel with all 3 talents now at the immortal level, he couldn't contain his joy. It took him a while to gradually calm down. There was one last attribute bubble left, primordial consciousness. After absorbing this attribute bubble, Wang Ting's mind was filled with an image. It was as if a very ancient and vast world was slowly unfolding in his mind. In this world, there was nothing except boundless vastness, exuding an ancient and timeless aura. Within that aura, it felt like anyone could be assimilated, becoming a part of that vastness. This consciousness was so ancient, like the consciousness of the universe or the consciousness of time itself, something that could not be resisted or defied. Chapter 1933 Mysterious Bloodline. Narrow Path of Enemies. 2. After some time, Wang Ting finally managed to integrate the enlightenment of the primordial consciousness into his body. He was astounded. Scary. Terrifying. At this very moment, it seemed as though his consciousness was still immersed in that ancient and vast sensation, making it difficult for him to break free. However, in reality, only a fleeting moment had passed. A brief moment that could almost be disregarded. Wang Ting had previously obtained attribute bubbles related to consciousness, battle conscious. Moreover, he had reached the 9-star level, displaying exceptional willpower, condensing battle intent like the soul of a battlefield, undefeated in 100 battles. Then there was bloodlust, which was even more terrifying. It was an extreme consciousness, cold and insane, far from ordinary conscious. But Wang Ting felt that compared to the primordial consciousness, the 2 previous forms of conscious were still lacking. The primordial resistance was even more majestic and immense, vast and endless, as if it could assimilate everything. Subconsciously, Wang Ting tried to invoke the power of this consciousness. Immediately, a subtle but profound aura of vicissitude appeared around his body, making him incredibly terrifying, like an ancient being. However, with Kang Yu nearby, Wang Ting quickly retracted this power and looked at his attributes board. Primordial Consciousness, 2710,000, first rank, first rank. First rank again. Wang Ting was somewhat vexed. He didn't expect the primordial consciousness to have different ranks too. The primordial oceanic serpent bloodline he received was at the first rank, and the primordial consciousness was at the first rank too. Just thinking about how rare the ancient will was made him realize how difficult it would be to increase this attribute. To reach the second rank alone required 10,000 attribute points, and he had only increased it by 2,700 points so far. He didn't even know when he would be able to break through to the second rank. Wang Ting let out a sigh and didn't dwell on it too much. After all, being able to obtain this primordial consciousness was already a great fortune. With control over this powerful consciousness, he was almost invincible in the realm of consciousness. Even a universe-stage martial warrior might not be able to resist the primordial consciousness. He turned to look at Kang Yu. He saw that she had also recovered from her astonishment and excitement, but her continuously flickering gaze still revealed her inner restlessness. "Is this the origin of the snakeman's bloodline?" Wang Ting asked curiously. The origin of the primordial oceanic serpent was incredibly significant, and he found it hard to believe that the snakeman's bloodline could have originated from it. However, with little Chinga rousing the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent bloodline, he couldn't help but believe it. According to our race's records, it should be correct, Kang Yu replied with a slight nod, her expression showing a touch of reverence. In her eyes, Wang Tung seemed to see a sense of pilgrimage. She highly valued and respected this bloodline origin. Wang Ting's expression turned strange. If she were to find out that he had just obtained the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent bloodline, he wondered what her reaction would be. As they conversed, the phantom of the primordial oceanic serpent above little Chinga's head slowly dissipated and eventually converged within her body. The terrifying aura also vanished with it. However, little Chinga's aura continued to rise steadily. She had originally been at the planetary disciple stage, but at this moment, she suddenly broke through to the planetary stage. Then, planetary stage level 2, planetary stage level 3, planetary stage level 4. She only stopped gradually when she reached the planetary stage level 7. Breakthrough. Wang Ting was astounded. Little Chinga was only 12 years old. She was yet a young girl. On Earth, girls of her age would typically have just finished primary school, and many might have only just started martial arts training. Even in the current interstellar era with more abundant resources, reaching the level of a martial disciple was considered good progress. The planetary disciple stage represented the soldier level to general stage. Little Chinga advanced directly from the planetary disciple stage to the 7th level planetary stage. This was a huge transformation. If this had happened on Earth, it would have been considered unbelievable. But in the vast universe, it seemed somewhat more acceptable. I didn't expect her strength to increase so much after merging with the bloodline power, Kang Yu said with delight. At that moment, little Chinga slowly opened her tightly closed eyes. The instant she opened her eyes, a cold and majestic aura radiated from her. Wang Teng and Kang Yu were shocked. Her eyes, once filled with innocence and clarity, now appeared ice-cold and majestic, making her seem like a completely different person. Moreover, her previously black hair had completely transformed into a purplish-blue hue and showed no signs of returning to its original state. Little Chinga at this moment seemed like an entirely different individual, making both Wang Teng and Kang Yu feel a deep sense of unfamiliarity. What astonished Wang Teng even more was that little Chinga's current appearance bore a striking resemblance to when he had awakened the bloodline of the primordial oceanic serpent bloodline. Little Chinga? Wang Ting called her hesitantly. Little Chinga looked over, and the cold and imposing demeanor in her eyes slowly dissipated, replaced by a hint of joy as she exclaimed, "Daddy, come here quickly." Wang Ting breathed a sigh of relief and beckoned to her. "Daddy, Master, did I succeed?" Little Chinga flew over and inquired happily. She had already felt the changes within herself, but she yet had some uneasiness and sought affirmation from Wang Teng and Kang Yu. "Yes, little Chinga, congratulations, you've succeeded." Kang Yu hesitated for a moment but yet reached out to touzle her little head and smiled warmly. Chapter 1934 Mysterious Bloodline. Narrow Path of Enemies. 3. Wang Ting also smiled and nodded at her. This little girl was his lucky star, bringing him such significant benefits. "I don't have to die anymore." Little Chinga suddenly cheered, her words tinged with a touch of sentiment. This little girl. Wang Teng glanced at little Chinga, feeling a tug at his heartstrings. He shook his head. For some people, their only request was simply to stay alive. But how many people couldn't achieve that? "Thank you, Master." Little Chinga blinked her big eyes and expressed sincere gratitude to Kang Yu. "You should thank your father." Tsang Yu shook her head and looked at Wang Ting with a somewhat complex expression. If he hadn't intervened in time, little Chinga would probably have had a hard time surviving this ordeal. While she had found the python-patterned purple jade for little Chinga, when the energy erupted inside little Chinga's body, she wouldn't have been able to resist the chilling force without that green flame. Everything would likely have been in vain. "Daddy." Little Chinga looked at Wang Ting with confusion. In her eyes, although her father was very capable, he seemed powerless to deal with the energy inside her body. How could he have possibly helped? Wang Ting just smiled faintly and didn't say much. Master, what's going on? Little Chinga got even more curious and asked hurriedly. Kang Yu glanced at Wang Ting once again, then explained in a low voice to Little Chinga. Ah! Little Chinga exclaimed, and the more she listened, the more astonished she became. She looked at Wang Ting with disbelief in her eyes. Oh, her father turned out to be a hidden master. No wonder I felt something hot entering my body back then, Little Chinga muttered to herself. Cough. Wang Ting suddenly coughed, choked by her words. Something hot entering her body? What kind of description was that? Daddy, what's wrong with you? Little Chinga quickly looked at Wang Ting with concern. Did you get hurt just now? Kang Yu also looked over, wearing a puzzled expression. Wang Ting, seeing the innocent and worried expressions of the two, felt his face heat up. It seemed he was the only one with impure thoughts. Nothing. Nothing. Wang Ting quickly shook his head and changed the subject. If there's nothing else, we should leave. Yes, let's save our conversation for later. We should depart here first. Kang Yu nodded and replied softly. Yeah, let's go quickly, it's so hot here. Little Chinga didn't have any objections either. With the cold energy inside her now under control, she could resist the scorching warmth in the surroundings, but she didn't enjoy this environment. You should take this python-patterned purple jade with you. Wang Ting pointed at the purple jade and said. Kang Yu was slightly surprised but then nodded. She waved her hand to retrieve the python-patterned purple jade. Without further hesitation, the three of them immediately left the area. Leaving was much smoother than entering, and they utilized their speed to the fullest, rushing toward the outskirts of the magma. Before long, the three of them burst out of the dry well they had entered from, returning to the surface. Boom! 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 Just at that moment, several powerful attacks came from all directions, either in the form of blade or sword energy, descending from the sky toward Wang Ting and the others. Kang Yu and Wang Ting's expressions changed. The opponents had concealed their presence from the beginning and launched a surprise attack when they appeared. There was simply no time for them to react. Although Kang Yu was a peak heaven stage martial warrior, in this situation, she couldn't evade the attacks and could only try to withstand them. Don't move. A sudden command rang in her ears. It was Wang Ting's voice. Kang Yu subconsciously paused for a moment and then she experienced a familiar large hand covering her waist once again. The next moment, she only experienced her surroundings blur, and she disappeared from her original location. Space flash. Wang Ting used his space skill to evade the attacks. Did we hit them? In the sky, several figures appeared, surrounding the area where the attacks had landed. No, wait. They dodged. One of the figures had a slight change in expression and suddenly gazed to the left. They saw space fluctuations ahead, and three figures emerged. How interesting, they managed to evade our attacks. The leader of the group chuckled. Wang Ting and Kang Yu stepped out of the void, gazing around. 6 figures were floating in the sky, looking at them with a hint of mockery at the corners of their mouths. These 6 people were all heaven stage martial warriors. From their appearance, it seemed that these individuals were students from the stellar academies and not locals. They had been attracted by the commotion caused by Little Chinga earlier, thinking it was some kind of treasure. Hence, they set up an ambush outside and waited for Wang Ting and the others to appear. 3 snake men. One of the young men grinned as he gazed at Wang Ting and his group. We're quite lucky, another one remarked. And 2 snake women. I've heard that snake women are extremely seductive, and it seems to be true. That little girl is a bit young, but she's also quite attractive. It's just right for my taste. A sharp glint flashed in the eyes of a pale-faced young man as he licked his lips. Snake women are nothing more than a bunch of seductive and cheap goods. Right, your taste is truly unique, a female warrior sneered. Chapter 1935 Mysterious Bloodline. Narrow Path of Enemies. 4. The female warrior had long brown wavy hair, an attractive figure, and a pretty face. But, compared to Kang Yu and Little Chinga, she fell short by quite a bit. Especially in terms of aura, she was far from their league. Jiangyu, Are you jealous? The slightly pale-faced young man, right, laughed heartily. Get lost. I wouldn't be jealous of two natives, Jiang Yu retorted coldly. All right, you both stop bickering. Let's get that treasure first, the young man who had spoken earlier said impatiently. This young man had a sturdy and muscular build, with black scales on his body and a silver horn on his forehead, indicating he might be from a certain demi-human race. He had a cold and ruthless expression. Yes, the treasure is what matters, a pig-human race member with a pig head nodded hurriedly with shining eyes. These individuals were shamelessly commenting on Kang Yu and little Chinga's appearances, and they didn't hide their intentions. Their tone was naturally condescending, showing complete disregard for the native snake men. In the eyes of these students from the stellar academies, they didn't regard the natives of Scorpion Kingstar as anything significant at all. In the universe, it had always been a dog-eat-dog world, and the students in the stellar academies were top talents from various domains. They had stood at the top from the beginning, and many of them had significant backgrounds. Compared to the natives of this small world, they seemed like noble aristocrats looking down on the impoverished in a slum. Ask yourself, how many nobles truly respect the commoners? Hand over what you just obtained, and we might consider letting you go, the leader with the silver horn said as he looked at Wang Teng and his group, his tone casual. Wang Teng squinted. He raised his head and looked at the six of them. A chilly glint flashed in his eyes. It was them. Standing before them now was none other than the members of the Swift Wing team. One couldn't avoid one's enemy. The last time they had implicated him, and now they launched a surprise attack on him. 2 times. These people pulled him down twice. Wang Ting had always been the one who pulled sneaky moves, but this time, he had been caught off guard twice in a row, which was a major humiliation. Moreover, their words just now had infuriated him. These people were treating Kang Yu and little Chinga as if they were their possessions and even wanted to take the treasures they had obtained. This act of forcibly taking things was enough to ignite the flames of anger in his heart. These people deserved to die. Kang Yu's current expression was also far from pleasant, her beautiful eyes filled with coldness. If it weren't for Zelly teleporting her out earlier, even she would have been injured by the surprise attack they faced just now. The words of these people were translated directly into the snake men language through a translator, allowing her to understand them clearly. No one had ever dared to speak to her like this, let by herself have such disrespectful thoughts about her. These humans were going too far. However, she glanced at Wang Teng and little Chinga, and a hint of hesitation emerged in her eyes. These extraterrestrial humans were remarkably powerful, and all 6 of them were Heaven Stage martial warriors like her. While they hadn't reached the pinnacle of Heaven Stage like she had and there was still some gap between them, based on her past experiences, these extraterrestrial humans all possessed the abnormal ability to fight beyond their ranks. Hence, she couldn't handle 6 Heaven Stage extraterrestrial humans alone. Leave with little Chinga. I'll hold them back. Many thoughts flashed through Kang Yu's mind. In the end, she gave up and spoke to Wang Teng using voice transmission. No, I want to retain them all here, Wang Teng said expressionlessly, his voice remarkably calm. A look of surprise flashed across Kang Yu's pretty face. This Zelly must be out of his mind. How could he, a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, expect to retain 6 Heaven Stage extraterrestrial humans here? Even if his strength was indeed commendable, and he had that green flame to assist him, not to mention the space ability he had just used. However, a Cosmos Stage martial warrior was still a Cosmos Stage martial warrior. The difference between him and a Heaven Stage martial warrior was too great. There was an unassailable gap. What's more, there were 6 of them. How was he supposed to fight? Could someone tell her how she should fight? Chapter 1936 Fight. Who are you? 1. In the desert, above the ruins of the scattered stone piles. Although it was still quiet, there was a palpable sense of tension in the air. Kang Yu looked at Wang Ting in astonishment and said softly, "Don't be impulsive. These extraterrestrial humans are all at the Heaven Stage. The 2 of us are no match for them. Little Chinga is our race's hope. Do you want to see her getting taken away by the extraterrestrial humans?" Wang Teng was surprised. He hadn't expected that even in this situation, Kang Yu's primary concern was still little Chinga. However, he had his plan and was confident in protecting little Chinga, so he didn't intend to leave. He turned and calmly asked her, "How many can you handle?" Kang Yu was anxious, but in the current situation, she had no time to think. She clenched her teeth and said, "At most 2. Even I can handle at most 2 of them without defeating them first. Or maybe only 1. She directly pointed out her situation, hoping that this Zeli could recognize reality instead of taking on an impossible task. 1 or 2? Wang Ting pondered for a moment and nodded. Should be enough. Try to keep 2 of them busy for me. These people are not simple to deal with all at once, so we'll have to take them one by one. Wang Ting's lips curled into a faint smile as if he didn't find this too difficult. Kang Yu didn't know what else to say. Ha ha ha, boss, it seems like these snake men don't intend to give up without a fight. The young man called right laughed. Let's not waste any time and take care of them. It seems like you want to do this the hard way. The silver-horned young man shook his head and said coldly. Have you uttered enough? Wang Ting suddenly looked up at the members of the Swift Wing team and said calmly. The members of the Swift Wing team were stunned. They didn't expect this snake man to speak to them in this manner. If you're done talking, go and die. Wang Teng's expression turned cold suddenly, his gaze unwavering as he gazed at them. With that, quietness fell over the surroundings. Fart. Right snorted. A mere Cosmos stage native. Where does the confidence come from? Jiang Yu giggled. The others gazed at him derisively too. Their eyes were filled with contempt. Wang Teng remained calm, showing no signs of anger in response to their taunts. On the other hand, Kang Yu was extremely anxious. Even little Chinga was looking at him worriedly. Boom. In the next moment, a thunderous roar erupted as Wang Ting vanished from his original position, transforming into a streak of rainbow light, charging straight toward the leading silver-horned man. The silver-horned man snorted disdainfully, his eyes filled with disdain. He extended his palm to meet the attack. The others watched with a sense of detachment as if they were merely spectators at a show. They didn't plan to act. A mere local from the Scorpion King Star dared to lay hands on their leader. Wasn't he merely courting death? Would this snake man be able to withstand one attack from their leader? Well, perhaps half an attack would be more than enough. A trace of mockery flashed in Wang Ting's eyes as he unleashed his fists. 5-element fists. Terrifying fist imprints erupted, sweeping over everything in their path. As the fist imprints manifested, everyone's expressions changed drastically. The silver-horned man felt it most acutely. The horrifying fist imprint bore down upon him, causing his face to pale. Leave. His force merged into his palm imprint, causing it to instantly swell, and he fiercely struck out. Boom. The fist imprint and palm imprint collided in the sky, producing a series of thunderous roars. In the end, both imprints shattered, transforming into residual force that surged in all directions. 2 figures were sent flying, crossing thousands of meters before finally halting their momentum. Silence. There was only silence. The members of the Swift Wing team were stunned. They found it unbelievable. The fact that the native at the Cosmos stage managed to force their leader back thousands of meters left them all astounded. It was the first time they had clashed, and they seemed evenly matched. But this was simply inconceivable. With such an enormous gap in strength, how could they be evenly matched? Even Kang Yu was flabbergasted. Was this Zeli so powerful? Or was he still hiding his strength? Little Chinga couldn't help but widen her big, round eyes, displaying an expression that seemed to say, "Is this really my daddy?" The silver-horned man's face turned extremely grim. He had been forced back by a Cosmos stage native, and it was undoubtedly a blow to his inner pride. They were the elite students of the Stellar Academies, Heaven Stage martial warriors. How could they be forced back by a Cosmos stage local? He couldn't accept this reality. Very well. The silver-horned man's sneer disappeared from his face, and he stared coldly at Wang Teng. With a chilling tone, he spat out 2 words. Clearly, he was now completely enraged. The others abandoned their mocking expressions, their gazes locking onto Wang Ting with icy intent. Wo simply beckoned at them with a taunting smirk, his eyes brimming with contempt. Leader. The members of the Swift-Wing team gazed at the silver-horned man. Attack. The silver-horned man waved his hand and shouted, showing that he had no intention of fighting alone. The members of the Swift-Wing team immediately grinned and launched their attacks at Wang Ting. They unleashed a barrage of blade energy, sword energy, axe energy, fist imprints, and palm imprints. Zelly. Kang Yu rushed over worriedly. Let's start. You can hold 2 of them back, Wang Ting said calmly. Kang Yu sighed inwardly, realizing that further words were futile. She had no choice but to fight alongside Wang Ting. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.